Hello, everyone, and welcome to our actual play series of Blades in the Dark called Ring Down Below. I am Eli Kurtz. I'm going to be the game master tonight, and I'm here with three players that I enjoy playing with very much. We're going to do some introductions, and then we're going to make characters and make a crew as well. And then we will dive into our first cycle of free play and score and downtime and all that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start with Derek. Do you want to introduce yourself, your name, what you do, where we can find you if people want to?
I am Derek, and I don't want to give any personal information over the internet. They tell you not to do that, Eli.
It's a smart
Uh,
decision.
but I will be playing Clank, and that's about all I know about Clank right now.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you very much. Next, we're going to do Jeremy. You want to introduce us to your fine personage?
I'll do what I can. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy. I have a YouTube channel called the Erasmus Expeditions, where we live play games and such things like that. I'm also one-third of the podcast, The Dudes of Yore, with my buddies Chad Nick and Jeff Doty. Hopefully, we'll be recording a new episode of that coming up pretty soon. And tonight, I am very excited because I am brand spanking new to Blades in the Dark, and I am still very green with Roll20. I am learning quickly. So tonight I'm going to be playing Benjamin Benji Overstreet. He is a racer of cigar-style boats. So I'm really excited to learn this game. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. We're glad to have you. Derek, do you want to introduce your character in some equally brief terms?
Sure. Okay. So Clank is a mechanic, and he is a saboteur, and we'll see what fun mischief we can get into with maybe helping Benji fix some races so that Benji wins.
Wonderful. And then last but not least, we've got Baron. You want to introduce yourself?
What's up, everybody? I'm Baron. I'm over at the YouTube channel RWD Gaming. We got a couple live plays, new one coming out tomorrow, so come check us out. Tonight I'm going to be playing Jonathan Black. Otherwise, some people call him just Black. He is a intelligence guy, a numbers guy, a people person, really, and he helps these two make the most money.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. And now, some of you may not be familiar at all with Blades in the Dark, and so we should do a little bit of an intro into the world of this game. So Blades in the Dark is a game that was written by John Harper, and that's underselling it. John wrote this game. He did all of the art. He did the cartography. He did the layout. He did so much work on this game. It's stunning. And the game itself is just oodles of fun to play. I'm fairly new to it, but I've been playing a lot of it. And it takes place in this setting called Doskvol. And in the city of Doskvol, almost 1,000 years ago, there was this apocalyptic situation where the sun exploded, the world was shrouded in perpetual night, the continents were ripped apart, and most importantly, there was a barrier between the waking world and the ghost field that was weakened. And so whereas before, when people died, they would go off into the afterlife, this ghost field place, now spirits have a harder time getting there. So there are ghosts all over the place, and people are only able to survive by gathering together in cities that are protected by these lightning walls. Lightning walls being these massive structures. You can see it here in our Twitch overlay. There is a lightning tower in the background there that's keeping the ghosts out of the city of Doskvol. However, living in a city of perpetual night surrounded by hungry ghosts, and in fact infiltrated by hungry ghosts too, can be pretty stressful. And so it's not the most utopian of societies, this Doskvol. In fact, it's a place where a lot of bad stuff goes down all the time. We will be playing a gang of scoundrels who are out to make a name for themselves in the city, to contend with other gangs, and to try to rise to the top. One of the cool things about Blades in the Dark is that the first session is a really collaborative process of building not only your characters and your crew together, but also building the setting in general. in terms of like which factions that you choose to focus on and that sort of thing. We have done a little bit of that prep work in advance. We've got a basic idea of what characters we're going to play, and we also have a good idea of the factions that are going to be at work in the city as well. I need to bump my mic a little bit. So let's try this out. Maximum volume. Hopefully that'll work a little bit better. Thank you, Morbid Fascination, by the way, for the tip there. So what we are going to do is get into character creation together. Now, these guys are all fairly new to Roll20 and totally new to Blades in the Dark. And one of the reasons why I chose Roll20 to do this whole thing is because there is some phenomenal character sheet support for Blades in the Dark on this thing. So for you guys, you players, you can see on, if you open up your character sheet, you'll see that there's a space in the top where you can type in what playbook you want to play as. You just type in whichever one you're using, and then it'll auto-populate everything else. You also see that you've got a number of skills off to the right-hand side, grouped into 3 categories: Insight, Prowess, and Resolve. Whenever you click on the text of one of those skills, it pops up a little dialogue that will allow you to set position and effect and any bonus dice that you're doing. And then when you roll, it'll go into the chat feed in this cool little animated GIF that our viewers will see whenever we start actually playing. I'm going to go ahead and provide a disclaimer right now, by the way. My cat is feeling his oats tonight, and he's going to be jumping all over my desk. So we'll have a nice, proper podcat this evening. But anyway, so for you characters, why don't you open up your playbooks, and we'll start to fill this thing out. So I want to start with... we've already got our playbooks. We know that Derek is going to be playing a leech. We know that Jeremy is going to be playing a spider. And we know that Baron is going to be playing a hound. The next step on your character sheet is to choose your heritage. And your heritage is it's a way to define where your character is from and a little bit about that history. So what you can do is take a look at this big world map on the player side here. You can see where everybody's from, and what you'll do, you'll pick one of those regions, and then you'll describe a little bit about it. So for example, you might say that you're from Scotland, and your family were ore miners, and now they're war refugees in Doskval. Something really short and sweet, just enough to give us a potent look into your character's backstory. So does anybody have anything that they already know they want to do that they want to share with us?
I'll say Clank is from Akaros. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I mean,
Koros.
pronunciations are open to interpretation in this game, and I usually say Akaros, but we've got freedom to say whatever we want.
Well, I have an accent. No, so Clank's family, there's a lot of mining colonies deep in Akaros, and his family grew up maintaining the mining equipment. And for some reason or other, they had to leave their land and make their way to the city. But he has retained his mechanical knowledge.
Very nice. Okay, so a mechanic from Akaros who is still kind of prowling the streets. I like it. Anybody else have something already hammered out?
Yeah, Benji is from the Dagger Isles. I figured it sounds like they're kind of maybe boat people, mercantile, possibly in nature. So I figured he probably would have grown up maybe learning to sail a little bit, or not sail necessarily, but at least pilot these boats. And I chose, I guess we're not on backgrounds yet, so I'll hold off on that.
Sure, yeah. And we will get to background very soon, too, so shouldn't be too much longer. But Baron, what's the story with our dear friend Jonathan Black?
I think John is also from Akaros. Not so much the mining aspect, but the coastal Leviathan hunters. That's what Dad did. That's what Granddad did. And God damn it, that's how we're gonna do it.
All right, cool. So is Jonathan then a whale hunter himself, or is that something else? I guess we'll find that out.
Yeah, I think we're gonna find that out.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so now that we have our heritage all ironed out, we will do background next. Now, for you folks watching from home, we've got a number of options here. So background, you could be from a what are the lists here? Well, one moment, please. Actually, Derek, could you read off the backgrounds for me? The little one-word options.
Sure. So the different backgrounds are. I have them just in front of me. Hold on a second.
I know there's...
Okay, they are academic, labor, law, trade, military, noble, and underworld.
Cool. Yeah, and just the same with your heritage. When you choose your background, you'll pick one of those and you'll define it a little bit. So you might be a labor background and you are a Leviathan hunter / mutineer, something like that. Derek, I happen to have your character sheet open, and I see that you have a labor background. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I have chosen labor and equipment maintenance specialist. Working on all sorts of equipment. Not a lot of mining here, but apparently there is Leviathan hunting, and that's where I make my trade.
Wonderful. All right. Jeremy, do we know what Benji's background is like?
Yeah, I don't know if there are subsets to choose from or not, but I just made one up that made sense. And I chose noble as the main background with a subset of mercantile family.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. That fits. The subsets that you're asking about are really anything. You can define it however you choose to.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's well and good. Baron, tell us about Jonathan Black's background.
He is the son of a Leviathan hunter, but I think Pops wanted something better for me, so I have a trade background. I'm more in the business end rather than the hunting end.
All right, cool.
Though I have been on a ship, so I think that kind of plays into the whole know your trade.
Sure. That sounds good. So once we have our background laid out, now we have to assign action dots. So on your character sheet, like I mentioned, or how I pointed out the skill area, you'll notice that some of them are pre-filled with different action dot options, right? What this means is that whenever we roll dice in Blades in the Dark, it's always a number of d6 based on the number of pips you have in whichever skill you're trying to roll. And the general conversation around rolling is that we will be role-playing free-form without any sort of mechanical interaction. And then whenever you try something that's risky or dangerous or has the potential to fail or something like that, you will say, okay, so I'm doing this thing, I'm sneaking up, I'm crawling through the sewer or whatever, and I see some dudes up ahead. So I'm going to use Prowl, and I'm going to come after them. And it could be like Prowl is a good option for moving around unseen. You might decide, no, what I want to do is like rig this thing on the wall to trap them under a bunch of rubble or something, in which case you might use Tinker instead. So you have complete freedom to use whichever action you think is most appropriate, or which one your best rating is in, or however you want to define that.
I do have a quick question about how you would use these things. So there's finesse versus tinker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you give me an example of when you would use those?
Absolutely, yeah. So first of all, if you hover over the text on your character sheet, it gives you a little bit of an option there. It gives you some ideas. But finesse might be something like if you want to duel somebody one-on-one, if you want to pick a lock, if you want to try and like use grace or subtlety to get through something, that would be what you do. Whereas prowling would be like sneaking up on somebody or staging an ambush or something along those lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so what we're going to do with these, like I said, the number of pips in your skill, your action rating, will determine how many dice you're going to roll. To start off with, you can't have an action that's higher than 2, and you've got 4 dots that you can distribute. One of these dots needs to reflect your heritage, one of them needs to reflect your background, and the other 2 you can place however you want. So let's go ahead and go around and start with your heritage dot. So where are we putting Clank's heritage dot on the sheet here?
His heritage dot. Let's see. Probably in Prowl.
Prowl? Okay.
Yeah. Gotta traverse the mines.
Cool. Yeah, you had to like slip through cracks and that sort of thing. It's a family skill, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Okay. Next we have Benji. What's Benji's heritage dot looking like?
Looking at kind of some of the overview descriptions, I think I'm going to go with finesse because it specifically says handle a vehicle. And I think that being from the Dagger Isles, again, he was probably learned to first maneuver a boat there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really good. And last but not least, Black. What's the story with your heritage die?
I am from a sailing family, so commanding is kind of in my, maybe not commanding. Yeah, command. I giving directions, efficiency. That's kind of always been a thing in our household.
Absolutely. Cool. So you're kind of the man in charge when somebody needs to be in charge.
Yep.
I dig it. All right. And then let's go in reverse order for the background pip. So Black, what about your background pip? Where are you placing that?
I think that one would be consort. Just in my experience going to school for trade, number one thing in trade is connections. So people I know.
Absolutely. That sounds awesome. Very nice. Benji, what about your background pip?
Being a noble and mercantile at that, I think I'm going to go with sway. Being able to charm people, use deception if need be, or bluffing, changing attitudes. It definitely sounds like it would fit.
Absolutely. Yeah. That sounds really good. And then Clank, what about you?
My background pip is going to be in Wreck. So I can fix things, but I can also take them apart.
Yeah, of course. I like it. All right. So you're good at tinkering. You're also good at tearing stuff to pieces. I like that. That's a really suitable thing for a saboteur. So we've got those 2 action dots each, and now you are free to allocate the remaining 2 however you want. Whenever you do get them allocated, though, let me know so that we can talk a little bit about those too.
I think I'm actually gonna switch my my heritage from command to skirmish.
Cool.
I got brothers or something,
Mhm.
so one-on-one was always a thing.
And working at the docks or working with the sailors and Leviathan hunters and stuff, like you lived a little bit of a rough and tumble life. That makes sense.
The 2 that I am going to pick up are survey. Because again, when you're racing, like you've got to be able to make split-second decisions about the environment around you and how it's developing. So I think he's going to have a snap, hand-eye coordination type mentality. So I'm taking survey, and then I put a second one into finesse because I really, really want him to be good at driving or piloting.
Sure. Yeah, that makes good sense to me. Very nice. All right. So Clank, what about you?
I put another one into Prowl, and then one into Skirmish. Now I will say that I'm using the Leech, so I already had 2 pips in Tinker and 1 in Wreck for mine. So I wanted to make sure that the other players knew that they probably had 3 allocated already. I didn't know if they knew that or not.
Yeah, it's displayed on my sheet as well.
Okay.
Just in different areas.
Okay, I just didn't know where it was, so I just want to make sure. Okay,
Good.
yeah.
I have hunt and survey, so.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Nice.
So I said another prowl. So he's very sneaky, and then and skirmish, same sort of thing. He's up down by the docks. You can't live there for a while without getting into a couple of fights.
I like it. That sounds really good. And so, one thing that I do want to mention is you've got these three categories: insight, prowess, and resolve. These are your resistances. They're attributes, but like if you take damage or something, if something comes at you and you would suffer harm as a result of that attack or whatever, you can choose to resist it. And if you resist it, you will definitely avoid the damage. It's just a question of how much stress you take as a result of doing this thing. And the way you roll one of your attributes for resistance is you count up the number of pips that are in the first column of each section, right? So, for example, if you've got pips in the insight column and in the prowess column, but none in the resolve column, resolve is an area that's for like if you go up against ghosts, if somebody tries to put some real social pressure on you or something like that, you're probably going to roll resolve to resist consequences or harm. And if you don't have any dice in that, then you will roll 2 dice and take the lower of the 2 of them. So you can definitely heavily load one way or another. There are a lot of reasons, mechanically and roleplay wise to do that sort of thing. But just so you know, it can be to your benefit to have at least 1 pip in every category as well. With that in
But
mind,
you can add to it later, right?
yeah, for sure. And advancement happens fairly regularly, especially with me as a GM. I tend to give out anywhere from like 5 to 8 experience points per session, provided and that's something that we should talk about a little bit too. So whenever you gain experience points on your sheet, there's a little cheat sheet down here that tells you the circumstances under which you will gain experience. So one of them is always anytime you make a desperate action, and that has to do with position and effect, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. One of them is unique to your playbooks. So Derek, for example, you're a leech. If you address a challenge with technical skill or mayhem, you can get experience points for that. And then the final 2 are universal for everybody, one of which is you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background during the game. And the other one is you struggled with issues from your vice or traumas during the session. And so the way that works, at the end of the session, we'll add up XP and we'll have a conversation. We'll say, Clank, did you address a challenge with technical skill or mayhem? If you did once or twice, you'll get 1 experience point for that. If you did it 3 or 4 or more times, you'll get 2 experience points for that. Same things goes with the other categories. If you expressed your heritage a little bit, you'll get an experience point. If you did it a lot, you'll get multiple experience points. I usually only give out 1 or 2 because them's the rules. And as far as like the one about your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, you should keep track of when you're doing that in the game, but then at the end of the game, you can say, here's a new detail about my character. This is part of their heritage or background, and so I get to mark experience points for that. It's just a question of how legit it is, right? So that's part of the conversation as well. But as you can see, if you do 2 or 3 desperate actions, if you fulfill your playbook experience marker a couple times, and if you express your heritage or background a couple of times, you can get a fair amount of experience points. And you can allocate those almost anywhere you want to. Every time you make a desperate action, you'll mark XP in whatever attribute that was. So for example, if you're trying to prowl and it's in a really compromised position and you're desperate, you'll roll prowl, and then regardless of whether or not you succeed, you'll click this white bookmarker looking thing that's on the prowess line. Does everybody see how that works? Yeah. So once you fill that track, you will be able to add a dot to that column. So how quickly you can add to a column depends on how often you want to take a desperate action and that sort of thing. Cool. So we've got that covered. Next, what we do for each character playbook, you have a list of special abilities. And these are kind of the equivalent of feats or something in Dungeons & Dragons. And so everybody's got their list. The general wisdom is that if you're not sure what you should take, the first one on the list is a good one for people who are new to the system. So take a look at that, but also take a look at other options you've got in front of you. And if anybody's already made their decision, go ahead and let us know.
I've taken Saboteur. It's kind of based off of how I wanted to play this character, so I knew I was going to take that.
Very nice. Okay, and Saboteur means that when you wreck, the work is much quieter than it should be, and the damage is hidden from casual inspection. So that's especially good for somebody who's trying to fix races. That's really nice. Okay, cool. So Benji or Black, have either of you arrived at a special ability yet?
I'm not 100% positive, but I think functioning vice might make sense because my vice is that I get pleasure from speed, from going fast. I think the ability to adjust my dice outcome while I'm indulging my vice, which is while I'm racing, would probably come in pretty handy.
I agree. Yeah, I agree totally. It's good to keep a cool head under pressure. That's good. And so let's talk a little bit about vices at this point too. We're about to establish what your vice is, but your vice is how you work off stress, and stress is essentially your hit point equivalent in this system. So anytime you want to try something that's really risky, you'll take a number of stress. Like for example, let's say you've got 2 dice in Prowl, and you want to roll more than 2 dice. You can push yourself, in which case you take 2 stress, and then you can roll a 3rd die. You can't push yourself for 4 stress and roll 2 extra die or something like that. That's only ever like a 2 stress for 1 die thing. Also, the way this game works, you're kind of thrown right into the middle of the action, and it's assumed that your characters are hyper competent, but you don't have in-game time to like make a plan before you jump into your score. And the way that we compensate for that is by having flashbacks, right? So if you come to a moment and you're like, oh man, my character would have prepared for this, you can say, I want to do a flashback scene right now. You'll make an action roll just like anything, and then you'll take a number of stress based on how risky the action is, and that's how that'll work. Also, like I said, if you make a resistance roll, you will roll however many d6 you have in that attribute, and then you'll take the highest die, and you will take 6 stress minus whatever that highest die is, right? So you can suffer a lot of stress from resisting something, and that's something that you should be wary of, especially once you start accumulating stress from pushing yourself and doing flashbacks and that sort of thing. But at the same time, like I said, your vice is how you work off your stress. So once the score is done, you can indulge your vice, and you'll roll a d6 or however much, depending on what your stats are, and you'll work off a certain number of stress. What you don't want to do is overindulge. So if you've got 3 stress and you roll a d6 and you get a 4, you've cleared too much stress, you've overindulged, and you'll suffer consequences related to whatever your vice happens to be. So my own personal playstyle whenever I'm a player is that I like to accumulate at least 6 stress in a session so that I can indulge my vice and be confident that I'll be able to work some of it off without actually clearing too much of it, right? So you can kind of think about that in terms of the economy of the game.
And just to clarify, you cannot indulge in a vice during the score, correct?
Correct. Eventually, you can suffer, like you can invoke your vice as something that makes it a little harder for you during the game, and you can get experience points for that. But you don't actually roll for your vice until you're in the downtime phase, which is the final segment of the game. Cool. All right, so we've got that, and I believe Black has yet to reveal his special ability.
I don't think I shared my other 2 pips either.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry about that.
I took study and finesse. Study just tips and tricks I learned at school, and finesse just because tying knots and having nimble fingers is kind of part of the gig.
For sure, I love it.
My special ability, I chose tough as nails. Same kind of situation. Live hard, be hard, I guess.
Nice. All right. I like that. Tough as nails is good too because I think it helps out with your resistance stuff, so you can take a few more chances that way. That's good. So we've got kind of a stealthy special ability. We've got a cool under pressure special ability, and then we've got like a tough guy special ability. That's a pretty nice mix. What we're going to do next is you've got a section of allies that is on the right side of your character sheet, just underneath your skills. And you'll see that each one of them has an up arrow and a down arrow. So what you'll do is pick a close friend and a rival. One of them is a longtime ally, a family relation, a lover, or whatever, and that is the one you will mark with an upward pointing arrow. The other one is a rival, an enemy, a scorned lover, a betrayed partner, something like that, and that's the down arrow, and they can cause trouble for you in this game. So, Clank, why don't you tell us about your close ally and your rival?
For my close ally, I chose Stasia, who is an apothecary. We haven't got to this yet, but my vice is going to be drug-based, and so Stasia is my dealer.
Aha, very nice.
I've been buying from Stasia for a long time.
And a little closer than just your average dealer, too, if she's a close ally of yours.
Yeah, we other benefits as well.
Of course. A dealer with benefits.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Whereas the rival or someone I don't get along with is Eckerd, a corpse thief.
A corpse thief.
It's just not my background and being from Macros. We're very into family heritage, and you just can't steal from the dead.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Sure. Well, and also in Doskfall, there are haunted rivers pretty much all over the city. And a lot of people dump their bodies in the rivers and then ghosts pop up. And it could be that this guy is haunting up the waters that you guys are trying to race in to your advantage, and that's something that's not preferable to you. So there might be multiple reasons why you're not getting along with this guy.
I mean, he just looked at me weird one night, too.
Sounds good. All right, so Black, do you have ally and a rival picked out yet?
I'm thinking for my rival, I'm gonna have Celine, who is a sentinel. I don't exactly know what a sentinel is, but it sounds like a position of power.
Absolutely. I don't really know what it is either. I know that there are a lot of different titles that get floated around, but I can't remember what Sentinel is. So for now, we'll say that you can define it yourself, and if I come up with something...
She's just that cop that always happens to be the one that shows up when I'm involved.
Yeah.
And it's gone on too long. That's like extremely personal.
Okay. So, and you said this is your rival, not your close ally, right?
Correct.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then my close ally is actually Belaris, a spy. He has proven himself for the entirety of our relationship to be the most reliable and competent intelligence man that I've had. So I keep him close. I take care of him.
Very nice. I like it. And last but not least, Benji, what do you got?
So for my close ally, I took Salaya, I think is how you pronounce it, who is an information broker. It pays to be well informed when you're in the business of making money and taking people who are your rivals down. So definitely a close relationship with this individual.
Very nice.
And as far as my nemesis, I took Jenna, a servant. I think that there's probably some unexplained relationship there. They were close, probably closer than they should be, between a noble and a servant, and I think he kind of threw her under the bus.
Okay, cool. And I'm really loving this picture that's developing of this kind of bad boy noble scion who is
Yeah,
who
for sure.
drives fast boats and sleeps with the servants, or not sleeps, of course.
He's always fast in all
Benji is
facets.
just outrageously cool.
he's,
He's a
he's
cool guy.
he's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so we've got our close friends and our rivals, and something that I mentioned earlier, if you invoke your heritage or your background or whatever, you can get experience points for that. I'm more likely to award additional experience points if you can include your close ally or your rival in that example, right? So keep that in mind as we go through. But now that we are finished with all this stuff, we have our vice. So, like I said, your vice is how you work off stress in the game. And I know everybody already has some thoughts about how they're going to do their vice. So, let's start with Benji this time. What kind of vice are you dealing with here?
So, as I mentioned before, his vice is pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets pleasure by just driving fast. Honestly, probably anything fast. To be truthful, he's kind of an adrenaline junkie. He likes to move quick.
I love it. All right. And I know that there is no, like, there are examples of vice purveyors in the city, but there isn't a vice purveyor for like illegal races or something. That's something that we're adding to the game. So you have the freedom to name that person whatever you want to, but I would imagine it would be like
Okay.
the person who's facilitating the races.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll work on that.
Cool. Sounds good. And next, let's do Black this time. Tell us about your vice.
We had talked about like some sort of cigarettes, like an ectoplasm cigarette.
Yeah. So for those listening, electroplasm is one half of the components needed to produce lightning oil, which is the substance that fuels the entire city. Electroplasm is also what ghosts are made out of. And there is a drug in Doskval. It's basically the equivalent of cocaine. It's called Spark, and it's a certain kind of chemical treatment of electroplasm. But I love Baron's idea to do like basically ghost cigarettes, electroplasm
I
cigarettes.
had this like idea that every time he exhales, you hear like the slight like.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. And so one of
Like,
the things about your
no one
vice,
complains about the smell. It's like, oh god, that noise.
I love it. That's a really unique spin on like complaining about cigarette smoke. That's pretty rad. And one of the things about your vice too is that like your vice is definitely something that's a big factor in your life, but it's not necessarily something that you do all the time. So like, I'm watching Peaky Blinders right now, and I'm really loving it. And one of the characters just recently was basically given cocaine to help deal with one of their issues, and he was told this is only for race days. This is only for special occasions. Your cocaine stuff. Otherwise, you just got to settle for the whiskey. And so the same with your electroplasm cigarettes. Like maybe you smoke normal cigarettes all the time, but like when you really need to take the edge off, that's when you light up one of these things. Yeah. And that could happen during the session, but like mechanically speaking, it's going to happen most often when you indulge your vice. Cool. Also, you will need to come up with a vice purveyor as well. I think you're using the stupor vice, is that right? You're kind of just getting real zonked on these things.
That fits the best.
Cool. So here are some options then. It looks like the most appropriate one is a person by the name of Averick. They're listed as a powder dealer. That might be a good person to be your particular purveyor. If they can find drugs, surely they can find some fancy cigarettes. And then finally, Clank. Let's talk about your vice.
Well, I've been talking with you. I kind of wanted Clank to be afraid to go to sleep, and so I wanted his vice to be amphetamines to keep him going. And kind of what you're saying there, I guess you would normally just drink caffeine or whatever is the Blades in the Dark equivalent to caffeine.
Right.
But when he really needs it, he would go to harder stuff.
Right. Well, and as a scoundrel, you live a much harder life than the average caffeine drinker, and so you need a little more than just caffeine to get through your tough shit, right? Cool. So, and it looks like on your character sheet you've defined this as pleasure.
I think it would be.
So it's
I
like
didn't know what else would fall under.
you're running away from the fear of going to sleep in a ghost haunted city, and that's kind of like running towards pleasure.
Right.
You're seeking the pleasure of not being haunted by ghosts.
Yeah. Being awake is pleasurable.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really good. So cool. We've got our vices down. And the last thing we're going to do on your character sheet is record your name, your alias, and your look. So it looks like there aren't examples of look in the way that there are on like the printed character sheets, but basically for your name, we've already got that hashed out. For your alias, we've got that hashed out one way or another, whether you've got one or not. And then for your look, there are a bunch of categories, but you can basically describe that however you want. So you might be like an athletic man with a collared shirt. You might be a brooding, ambiguously gendered person in loose silks and a knit cap or something, like a kind of pithy description of your look like that, you know. So does anybody have any ideas about what they want their look to be?
This is kind of weird, but so I take so much amphetamines that I'm rather jittery. Just he constantly shakes, which is juxtaposition to being a very good tinker and wrecker, working with fine mechanical works. But he can hold it together just for that. I'll say he's a broad-shouldered guy, used to working with his hands and manual labor, so he's got the muscles to do that.
Very nice. I love it. Benji or Black, do either of you have your look nailed down?
I think I just got it.
Nice.
I also have the purveyor for my vice whenever you're ready for that.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me the purveyor, and then you can give me the look after that.
Okay, so the name that I came up with is Davian. So Davian. Spawl. Spawl.
Cool. And this is
Davian
the race fixer, or at least the facilitator?
Right. Yeah, he's the person who kind of sets the races up.
Very cool.
And then the look. I went for brooding man in a heavy jacket and tall boots.
Brooding man in a heavy jacket and tall boots. I like it. All right.
I'm pretty sure that's also going to be the name of my next album.
I love it. I think it was a Cake song too.
Oh, yeah, and right. And no.
Wonderful. All right. So, Black, what do you got?
Jonathan is weather worn and salt washed. He's sturdy with like a blaze, not a blazer. What's the long coat? Like a duster.
Duster,
He's got a duster. Yeah, he's got a duster.
I love it. All right. Cool. So we've got all of that information down. You might notice at this point we haven't actually chosen items that you're going to be carrying. That's because this is another element of the game that kind of relies on a flashback mechanic, right? So the game is split up roughly into 3 phases. There's free play, there's the score, and there's downtime. Free play is an opportunity to just loosely role play, get into character, that sort of thing, chase down leads, talk to people, find different options for scores that you can go on. And then when you decide to go on a score, you pick some bare details about it. On your character sheet, you can see it roughly in the middle of the sheet under planning and load. You will choose one of these 6 options for the style of score that you're going on: assault, occult, deception, social, stealth, or transport. And then once you've picked one of those, you will establish one detail. So for example, if you choose an assault, then you're choosing what's the one point of attack that we're going to start this score off with, right? Maybe we're going to choose to rob a bank, and so we're going to assault that bank, and our point of attack is the lobby. We're going to take that place hostage and do our thing. Or maybe you're doing a transport thing. Maybe you've got a boat or something. Who knows? And you decide to do a transport thing, and so you're going to choose your route. Okay, we're going to go along this canal between the Silk Shore and Crow's Foot districts or something like that. Once you do that, we make an engagement roll, once we establish the score and the detail, then you choose your load. And up toward the top of your character sheet, you'll see that you've got 3 options for load: light, normal, and heavy. And that's 3 light, 5 normal, and 6 heavy. If you choose light, that means that you're going undercover. You look more or less like a normal citizen of Doskvol. If you're normal, then you look like a scoundrel. You look like you're up to some trouble, but you're not exactly like flaunting how much stuff you're carrying and everything. If you choose heavy, then you are going off to battle. You've got gear all over you. You are really conspicuous, and you're not trying to fool anybody. Once you choose one of those, the number that's associated with it determines how many boxes you can check throughout the adventure, right? Or throughout the score. So if you choose a normal load, you've got 5 boxes that you can check during the score. And just like with a flashback, if you get to a point and you're like, oh man, I could really use some tinkering tools. Oh, well, conveniently, on standard gear, tinkering tools are listed there. And so you just check that box, and all of a sudden you've got that available to you. And having tinkering tools will increase your effect for a tinker roll, right? So you're dealing with kind of like a Schrodinger's gear thing. You have everything and nothing until you need something, and then you have that one thing, but you establish ahead of time a limit to how much you can possibly carry. Cool. So we've got all that taken care of, and I think at this point, let's talk a little bit about the starting situation that we've cooked up. So I came to you guys with this idea that I wanted to tell a story about revolution or unionization or some sort of like labor people's movement like that. From there, I said that there were a lot of different options, and I pitched some ideas to you. And you guys decided that telling a story about dock workers or something connected to dock workers would be pretty cool. And so we picked 3 factions. We picked the dock workers, the Leviathan hunters, and the grinders. And I'll tell you a little bit about each of those factions now. So the Leviathan hunters are the whalers. There are these creatures out in the void sea called Leviathans. Turns out the Leviathan hunters hunt them. And nobody really knows what the Leviathans look like, and nobody's really sure what happens out there, but there are these gigantic ships that are loaded up with weapons and all sorts of equipment. They're like mobile settlements of their own, and they're controlled by some of the most powerful noble houses in the city. The Leviathan hunters go out into this void sea where there's only an empty black sky above, and there's inky black water beneath you, but somehow inexplicably there are these lights that are burning far below the surface. So you go out onto one of these ships, and it's almost like you're out in space or something. It's a deeply maddening kind of place. And then eventually they find a Leviathan, and they sidle up beside this thing, they latch onto it, they cut into it, and they extract the Leviathan's blood. And the Leviathan's blood is the second ingredient in creating lightning oil. So you need demon blood and ghost essence to create the stuff that powers this entire city. It's metal as hell. So that's the Leviathan hunters in a nutshell. It's a highly dangerous job. It's got huge turnover. A lot of people don't come back. It's kind of a prestigious thing if you have been on multiple Leviathan hunts. And then we have the dockers. Once the Leviathan hunters return to the docks, there's this whole population of people whose job it is to offload cargo, to do that sort of thing. And the Leviathan hunters are not the only boats that come into the docks either. You've also got trade ships. You've got these speed boats and stuff that we use for canal races. You've got transportation ships for people. All kinds of stuff comes and goes through the docks, and the dockers are the people who facilitate that whole thing. What we know about the dockers is that they have always been a pretty rowdy, fairly militant bunch, but in recent years, increased competition between the Leviathan hunters and this group called the Ministry of Preservation, basically like the gears of business and commerce in the city, have been at loggerheads, and they've been increasingly making it harder for dockers to take it easy on the job. This competition has been ramping up the work efforts of the dockers above and beyond what's safe and easy for any of the dockers, and they're tired of it. So they're talking about starting a union. And then we have the grinders. The grinders are a gang in Doskval, and the grinders are a group of people who are Skavlander refugees. To the northwest, across the sea, there's a land called Skavlan, and all of these shattered isles are united under the immortal emperor, who's said to be a vampire that's lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. And the Skavlanders said, we don't want to be under the immortal emperor, we want our independence. So they started a unity war a couple decades ago. And it didn't work out in their favor. It lasted for way too long. It was kind of a Vietnam situation. And they were eventually defeated. And so a lot of Skavlanders decided that they were going to leave this war-torn homeland of theirs and come to Doskval. The Grinders are made up of these Skavlander refugees and also disenfranchised dock workers and Leviathan hunters. And they have this big voice in the city that's calling for all of these disenfranchised people to rise up and take matters into their own hands. They are also known as ruthless butchers. So these are things that you'll be contending amongst in our adventure together. At this point, we've been going for about an hour. I want to take a break, and you can get water, you can go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. Those of you watching, thanks for tuning in so far. When we come back, we'll start our role play proper. We'll hopefully get through a score and do some downtime and award some XP, and that'll be our first session. But in the meantime, stay tuned and get ready, because we are on the prowl. All right, everyone, welcome back to Blades in the Dark, Ring Down Below. We've just been through character creation, and now you should be able to see on your screens a little peek at our game board for this session. This is part of the Roll20 environment. I've been putting it together over the past few weeks, and I finally get to show it off to some people, so fun. Oh, I should probably let the players see it, though, shouldn't I? Let me just move them over here.
I was gonna say, like, what gives?
You don't get to see it. It's just for the viewers. Cool. Okay, so we are back, and I have a little bit of an intro blurb here that I will recite before we jump into the narration proper and establish the scene. So here we go. Welcome, listeners. KMGX and its affiliated stations are proud to present Gazetteer Radio's program, Ring Down Below, a tale of labor and struggle from the pitch-dark streets of Doskvol. This, our looming metropolis, known to sailors as North Hook, is kept safe from the Deathlands thanks only to the heroic sacrifices of the Leviathan hunters, who prowl the seas in search of demon blood to keep the gears of Doskvol turning and our lightning wall burning through this endless night. We go now to the docks, where upon the horrific shores of a great void ocean, the dockers make preparations for a dangerous race. So we're here outside the city, out on the void ocean, in fact, and you can see it stretched out, illuminated against a deeper blackness of the sky beyond. And there are these massive lightning towers that stretch 100 feet into the sky that are just crackling at the top like what are those balls, the static balls? You touch them and they have lightning that goes to your hand or whatever. It's like that, but on a huge scale. And we're moving across these dark waters, and we're getting close to this area where there's this massive island right off of the edge of the coast. And then we move around the edge of this island, and we come to this place where there's this gigantic docking installation all across a huge stretch of the riverfront. You've got these big piers that go out, and there are these 300 crewmen ships, the Leviathan hunter ships, that are out on the furthest end of the docks. And then in between those Leviathan hunter ships and the shore, you've got all of these little ships, trade ships, passenger ships, little personal watercraft and that sort of thing. And you can see the water is pitch dark out on the ocean where we were coming in from, but now you can see that there are these wisps of fog. But is that fog glowing? It's hard to tell. We don't spend enough time there. We go right past this water and we go up onto the docks where there are these massive warehouses. There are these gigantic cranes that are swinging out, unloading cargo. You hear work songs all up and down the docks, dockers who are timing their labor with the music of their own blue-collar voices. And we move past even that, and we go through the streets of the dock area, and we pass tangled alleys that are full of taverns that are spilling out music, and brawlers who are in a back alley duking it out, and there are some people who are doing drugs or maybe like propositioning men and women of the night. It's a seedy place, these docks, even though on the surface it's still pretty focused on commerce. And we go, in fact, almost to the very end of the dock district in Doskvol. And we find ourselves at the mouth of this canal. This canal is choked with flotsam and with bridges that are going over, buildings crowding the sides to where you almost can't see the night black sky above you. And a lot of people are here. There are some dockers that are here. There are a lot of these small 1 or 2 person cigar skiff power boats that are on the water ready to go. We've got people who look like they're pilots on the shore who are toasting, and they're playing cards with their allies and compatriots. But you all are standing near this figure here. His name is Roth Dava, and you know him as an Eruvian man from the southern continent, and he is just a dock worker, but he's a somewhat influential dock worker. And standing next to him is this figure, Coil. You know Coil. Coil is short Coil is slender, but nobody knows what Coil looks like or even what Coil's gender is because Coil never, ever speaks. Coil is deadly silent and covered up by bandages except for one eye. Perhaps some sort of horrible deformity or plague or something has afflicted this person in their sad life on the streets of Duskfall. But Coil is an incredibly faithful assistant to Roth Dava as Dava goes about the work of bending into labor with his fellow dockers and also talking to the dockers and making sure they're provided for and that sort of thing. And Roth has actually gathered some dockers around. Most of these dockers are people who are helping to facilitate the races, but Roth is talking about the conditions that they're working under. And you can hear him shouting, "Fellow dockers, what we need to do is band together now, and what we need to do is come into our own as dockers. For so long, the Leviathan hunters have been turning a blind eye to our hardships and our labor, and they would not be able to keep this city turning if it weren't for us. Is that right?" And a huge chorus of these dockers goes up. Yeah, some murmuring. It's not super passionate just yet. Where are the three of you situated in this crowd? Are you in it? Are you up with Dava? Are you back observing? What's the story? Let's start with Clank.
Clank's in the crowd. He's probably considered a dock worker with what he does during the daylight. And when you say Coil never speaks, Clank doesn't speak all that much, and when one word is easier than two, he'll stick with just the one word. So he agrees with Dava. So when people are cheer, he's like, "Dava speaks truth."
All right.
He's very non-emotional.
Very nice. Okay, so you are not right next to him, but you're kind of stoking up the crowd along with him. Very nice. Okay, and what about Benji?
You said there were some pilots nearby. Looked like they were maybe toasting. That's definitely where Benji would be. He's probably got his sleeves rolled up. He's probably got these, racing goggles that he typically wears when he's actually piloting, kind of pulled up on his forehead. And I would imagine that racing these cigar boats is probably filthy business. I imagine these engines probably just belch soot and nastiness. So he's probably got soot and stuff on his face, except for where these goggles would probably normally be. And he's probably just leaning against like a lamppost, kind of chit-chatting these other pilots. He's probably got a glass of something to drink, toasting either one of their own or one of his victories recently, and kind of watching what's going on, but not closely.
Very nice. And of course, it's one of Benji's victories.
Of course, naturally.
Here's the thing. You guys are... Oh, man. You know what I just realized? We did not establish our crew. We did our characters, but not the crew that we are united under.
Derek brought that up in the chat.
Oh, man. We've started too soon. Okay, well, we're going to have to jump back and do that. So bear with us for just a second, folks. Yeah, we're going to do a flashback to the moment when we all came together. Okay, so let me crack open the book really quick. So we had talked a little bit about what crew you guys wanted to be. I think we floated around the idea of bravos or shadows or smugglers. Did any of you have any preferences for or against any one of those?
I think I had gone with either shadows or what was the other one? It was the second option that we had listed.
Bravos, I think. They were the like the mercenaries and thugs, or maybe smugglers was the one.
I think it was. No, I think it was Bravos. Yeah, I think either Bravos or Shadows were my vote.
Cool. Jonathan and Clank, do either of you have a preference?
I remembered I liked Shadows and Hawkers, even though I don't remember what the Hawkers do.
Hawkers are vice dealers. They execute product procurement, covert sales, shows of force, and social events.
I think it was shadows I liked then most.
Cool. So shadows, we've got at least 2 for shadows. Jonathan, what are you thinking about?
I'm not opposed to shadows, so
Okay. So
I'm
shadows
down.
are thieves and spies. They execute burglaries, espionage, robberies, and sabotage. And that seems to fit really well with the idea that you want to do race fixing. So let's go ahead and do the Shadows playbook. And you all should have access to the Shadows playbook in Roll20. Does anybody want to check that for me?
Would you give us a rundown on how we access that?
Yeah, so it's in the same section as your character sheet in the list. It's just labeled crew.
I have made it shadows.
Nice. Okay. Very nice. All right. So you have the Shadows place open. That's good. What we will do now is let's see. Your crew begins with 2 coin in its coffers, which I think is already something that's going on. There we go. Tier 0, stronghold, and 0 rep. So your tier, your hold, and your rep. Let's go over those really quick. Your tier determines how you stack up against other gangs in the city. As a tier 0 group, you have like a street corner that you operate off of or whatever. You have like a single room in a building that's your lair or what have you. You have no more than 2 gangsters who are kind of your lackeys or whatever. Your rep is a measure of how much clout you have amongst the other gangs, and it's sort of your experience point tracker to grow in tier. So tier and rep are pretty closely related to each other. Your hold is determined by, or it determines how much strength you have on the territory that you control, right? So right now you don't have hardly any territory, but you control it really well. If you expand your territory, your hold might go down to weak because you haven't consolidated the power in that new territory just yet. And in this case, with you guys being race fixers and you guys being shadows, it might be more helpful to think of it not in terms of like geographic territory that you occupy, but social clout that you have one way or another. You have influence in a larger section of the city as opposed to having like goons who patrol a larger section of the city. So what we will do first is choose an initial reputation. You have several to choose from: ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, and strange. Do any of those stick out to you? Would you like me to read them again? I'll read them again. Ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, and strange. And there's no description for these beyond those words, so it's really just whichever one jumps out at you most.
I would say daring, savvy, or subtle.
Ambitious might sound good for Benji though.
Ambitious could work, yeah.
I was actually thinking daring kind of sounded like his cup of tea.
Okay. So, and I think ambitious and daring are both fairly the same. They're roughly equivalent, so we could just go with daring. That's close enough to being a consensus. Does that sound good? Cool. Next, we have to talk about where you make your lair. Now, you can see on the playbook that your lair already has 2 qualities. It's hidden, which is nice, and you have an advantage for training prowess. And what that means is that any prowess skill, that's finesse, skirmish, rec, and prowl, anytime you mark experience points anytime during downtime you choose to train one of those to mark experience, you get double the experience for that thing, which is pretty rad. But what we have to do here is determine what your lair is. So maybe it's a half-sunken grotto in the city's maze-like underground canals. Maybe it's a rickety, tin-roofed shack perched on a rooftop. Maybe it's a junked rail car. What kind of imagery is coming to you as we're talking about where we want this thing to take place?
I mean, a boat might be good.
A boat?
So, yeah, you were saying that, or the part of the description of the Dusk Bowl itself is that it's somewhat like Venice.
Yeah, There are large sections of it at the very least that are a lot like Venice.
So I think, yeah, I think it would be kind of cool if maybe we had a place where the water led straight inside. We had a portcullis or a wooden gate or something that we could literally open and sail or drive right into the lowest level and then close that. So
Like
either a building.
maybe like a boat garage or something.
Yeah, exactly. As part of the
Yeah.
structure.
Like a ruined boat garage or an abandoned boat garage or something.
Maybe like it's one of Benji's like family's boat garages that doesn't get used, and no one really thinks anything of it because um, this boat's always been in here or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's
Nice.
maybe what makes it hidden. It's got known ownership but not known occupancy. And so people know this thing is owned and I should steer clear, but people don't realize, oh, if I were to investigate, I'd find there are people there. That's nice. I like that a lot. So your lair is a family-owned, and Overstreet is your character's last name, right, Benji?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So an Overstreet family-owned boat dock. I'm going to say a canal side boat dock, so that way you guys can get into and out of it anytime you need to. I like that. I like that a whole lot. Now, here's the deal. You have a lair, but the entire city is divided among larger, stronger factions than you. There's no empty space for you to occupy. And so what we have to do now is establish your hunting grounds. This is the area that you usually target for your scores, and you know it well. Your hunting grounds don't have to be in the same district as your lair. This area is small, only 3 or 4 city blocks, but it's still an intrusion on someone, right? So first of all, your lair is located in the docks district. Is it located in a different district of town? What do you think? Do you want to have a little separation from the place where you do a lot of work, or what?
In my mind, I almost pictured it in like a civilian district. Like this is supposed to be for like a private vehicle rather than like the docks for business. And going into that, that's kind of what we target. We target the higher end vessels, and of course, feel free to interject, you guys. But we go outside of our home to rob the higher end vessels, and then skirt back here into the cover of darkness into the civilian district.
Very nice.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, so just to the east of the docks, there's a neighborhood called Brightstone, and this is kind of like the shining heart of the city. It's where all the really rich people are. It's where the only real big cathedral-style church is located. And then to the west of the docks, there's a place called Silkshore, and this is sort of an artist community that's bordering on like a workaday type place. But Silkshore does have a lot of canals. Brightstone does too, though. So either Brightstone if you're looking to be a little ritzier, or Silkshore if you're looking to lay a little bit lower.
I have a feeling that Brightstone would probably draw a lot of heat.
Sure.
So I think maybe Silkshore sounds like a better place to target.
Yeah, your family picked up the property while it's going cheap in hopes of flipping it, and it just isn't the area.
Or maybe
So
to
now you got-
occasionally give patronage to theater or something. Like there could be multiple reasons why they spend their time there or why they chose to invest there. Cool, I love it. So we've got that hammered out, the hunting grounds, but you took this territory from another faction. Which faction was this? Let's see. I get to decide which one it was. And I'm going to say you took this from the Grinders. Let's keep this kind of tight. The Grinders had some turf, and you kind of snuck it out from under them. You're operating on their territory, even if it's owned by the Overstreet family. It's still you're in their turf and they would want to know about it. So you have some options. You can pay them off, and you give them one of the 2 coin that you have available in exchange for giving you room to work. Or you can pay the faction 2 coin as a show of respect and gain +1 status with them. Or you can keep all the money and you take -1 status with that faction. And just so you know, if you get to -3 status with any one faction, you go to war with them. Your freedom to act is limited by a lot, and it's pretty tough to get out of war unless you like totally destroy that other faction. And the Grinders are a tier 2 faction, whereas you guys are tier 0. So it would be tough if you put yourself in a war position with them, right? But you have the freedom to decide how you want to deal with this. So do you want to pay them coin or do you want to not? And then how much coin do you want to pay them if you do?
We're not going to make any money if we give them coin. So.
Play it like we stole it, right?
Okay.
Actually, I don't mind giving them the coin because I envision us making lots of coin with our fixing races. But
so maybe give them 1 coin of the 2 that you have available.
Is it possible to update this in the future?
Well, yeah, your actions in the game will determine how the other
Our
factions
relations are.
Yeah, there will be a lot of shifting back and forth with different factions. The actions that you take will determine if things go well or poorly for you.
So for the sake of it, maybe we're not like in our necessarily driving it like we stole it all the time. We're laying low, making money off this certain area, using it to fix up our boat, and win these races to make some coin that way, without having to give any of that to them.
Okay.
yeah, that's how I envision it. So right now, we got on their good side, but we'll make a lot of money in the future.
Cool. So this is like your startup thing.
So then your vote, Derek, would be to give them both of the coin?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Baron said 1.
I just think 1.
Yeah, that's kind of... I was going to go with 0.
I was too, but
I can settle for 1, I think.
I'll meet in the middle.
Okay. Sounds good. So then whoever is keeping track of the character sheet, do you see where the coin is kept track of? So just go ahead. You've got the 2 there, and if you click on the first one, then the second one will go away.
So I have the crew sheet. Is that everyone's crew sheet, or
everyone should have access to it? I'm gonna double check that really quick too. Yeah, it says it's in everybody's journals, and it can be edited and controlled by everybody. So you should be free to change that. Whoever has it.
I mean, I've been filling it out, but I don't see like the hunting ground stuff. I didn't see where to put that. But...
hunting grounds, we'll change that in just a second. It's underneath the place. You've got the shadows label at the top, and then crew upgrades, and then a section with a bunch of check marks, and below that is where it says hunting grounds.
Right, but I didn't. We said Silkstone or where we were.
Gotcha. That's up toward the top. It says name, reputation, and lair. And I went ahead and wrote Overstreet family-owned canal-side boat dock in Silkshore.
Oh, okay, in Silkshore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the information that anybody else is putting in.
So here's what I did. I exited out of mine and then went to the journal tab, and there's a tab for crew. Click that one. That one seems to have been edited. I am going to say right now that maybe we all shouldn't edit this, and one person should maybe be in charge of that.
Solid idea. Okay. So, here, I can go ahead and edit it for now, just for the sake of moving along. So we have your hunting grounds, and your hunting grounds can be different from your lair. So I think it makes a lot of sense if you guys are telling a story about dockers for your hunting grounds to be the docks. Everybody agreeable to that? Cool. And then in addition to choosing a place to do your hunting, you also choose a particular type of criminal operation. And each crew type has a list of different operation types. When you prepare to execute an operation of your preferred type on your hunting grounds, you get +1 die to any gather information rolls. You get a free additional downtime activity to contribute to that operation. So it can be pretty helpful for you to pick the right one. And the options you have to choose from are burglary, espionage, robbery, and sabotage. Are any of those sticking out to you?
I think there's one clear one.
Yeah, hands down. Sabotage.
I didn't want to force your hand, but that does make a lot of sense. So what we will do is erase everything but sabotage, and we've got the docks. Okay. When you acquire turf, which we'll cover in a future session, you can also expand the size and or type of your hunting ground, so you can detail the new area and or methods with help from me. Now, just like we did with your character playbook, you also have a special ability as shadows, and you can choose one of these. So the one that's offered up as kind of the beginner option is everyone steals. Each PC may add +1 action rating to prowl, finesse, or tinker up to a maximum rating of 3. So if you choose this one, then as like brand new characters, you can go above and beyond that 2 action rating limitation. But there are some other ones that would make a lot of sense. Maybe a patron, who makes it easier for you to move up in tier. Maybe you're slippery, so it's easier for you to get out of trouble. Maybe you're synchronized, maybe something like that. Is anything sticking out to anybody?
Patron, maybe.
Patron?
Yeah, I could be good with patron.
That would be an especially good one if your goal is to rise in tier as much as possible, because the more you rise in tier, the more expensive it becomes for you to do that. So this would make it a more affordable thing, but it's something that you wouldn't use super often.
What is like? Can you explain to me what these like ghost structures and streets for ghost echoes is?
Oh yeah, so I mentioned at the very beginning that the ghost field, there was a layer between the ghost field and the living world that was broken during this cataclysm 1,000 years ago. And so the city of Doskval is really 2 cities in 2 different dimensions. It's the city in the dimension that we live in every day, and then it's also the city of ghosts that exists parallel to it, right? And so like when a building in the real world is torn down, a ghostly echo of that building might remain in the ghost field. And if you have ghost echoes, it says from weird experience or occult ritual, all crew members gain the ability to see and interact with the ghostly structures, streets, and objects within the echo of Doskval that exists in the ghost field. So basically, and this might tie in nicely with Clank's Vice. You don't like ghosts and you want to steer clear of them, and maybe that's because you all have had a brush with them in the past. There's been some weird experience, and now you guys more easily see ghosts. And the way that might be of advantage to you is you might be able to negotiate with a ghost or something. You might be able to tell like, oh, well, we're in this race right now, and there's some ghost debris in the river up there, and if I can point people toward it, maybe it'll mess them up somehow. So it would be kind of a niche special ability, but it would definitely have its uses here and there.
So you said you can interact with it, so there's a ghostly echo of like some scaffolding along a building. I could use that to climb up the building, and does that make sense?
Yeah. You would need to roll the action rating is attune, and that's how you interact with the ghost field. But maybe if you were to do like a prowl roll and it was especially good, or finesse or something, you could maybe like get along, but you would have maybe less effect than you would if you used attune.
So hear me out. Maybe, I mean, actually, you don't have to hear me out, but we all went on a Leviathan hunt, and maybe we're doused in the blood or something on accident, and that's kind of like what brought us together, is this experience that now haunts us daily with apparitions. Though I don't necessarily object to patron. So
Sure. What does everybody else think?
Clink's the follower.
um, yeah, I mean, the interacting with ghost stuff sounds really, really awesome. I can't lie.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the most beneficial to us, but I think it sounds like one of the coolest options.
That's what I'm saying. Is I don't know if it'll necessarily be something we benefit all that much from, but it sounds cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm
We
totally
can gain
fine.
more special abilities later, right?
You can, yeah. Crews advance in the same way that scoundrels do, so you
Okay,
definitely
so
have
we
an
can always
option
pick
to.
up a patron later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that'd be good to play through.
Yeah, and yeah, if you pick up a patron later, then you're attracting attention, and that makes sense with like growing in tier and that sort of thing. Cool. So we've got the special ability. What we have to do now is assign crew upgrades. So you already have 2 pre-selected upgrades. That's the hidden layer and the training for prowess, right? You get 2 additional upgrades to your new crew, so you'll have a total of 4. And you can choose from the specific upgrades available to your crew type or the general upgrades on the crew sheet. So the specific crew upgrades are this gray box that says crew upgrades. And those are options like you can get thief rigging, which means you get free load on tools or gear. It makes it good if you're trying to like operate under the radar. Underground maps and pass keys might help you when it comes time to navigating the river or something like that. Elite rooks and elite skulks. These are gangs that you can have at your disposal. Rooks are con artists, spies, and socialites. Skulks are scouts, infiltrators, and thieves. So you can choose to have some gang members who are kind of your lackeys that follow you around and do your dirty work if you'd like.
I like thief rigging.
Thief rigging is good. You've also got, so you can see with the standard upgrades, you could give yourself an actual boat, but it would cost you both of your upgrade points to do that. So you could have a mobile base essentially. And actually, hold on just a second. A boat house. You have a boat, a dock on a waterway, a small shack to store boating supplies. A second upgrade improves the boat with armor and more cargo capacity. So actually, I think one of your upgrades should go to boat. So that way you do have a racing boat, and that'll explain your lair being a dock and that sort of thing. And then the final thing is totally your decision.
I mean, I'm thinking thief rigging because if we're going to be doing this sabotage, I need to carry my tools around easily and inconspicuously.
I think that one makes probably the most sense. I don't really see us as like a big gang, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say either the thief rigging or the one about like the maps and layouts of all of the canals and stuff. But I think the thief rigging probably makes the most sense. So I'm
Sure.
good with that.
And these upgrades are things that you can add as you go along too. So you can do thief rigging now and then underground maps and stuff later. Cool. So we've got that decided. What we need to decide now, one of these upgrades you got from a faction on friendly terms, and one of these upgrades you got from a faction on not so friendly terms. And so what you will do is pick, let's see here. Do I decide which factions? Let's just remind myself here. The GM will tell you about 2 factions that are impacted by your choices. So one of them is the Dockers. One way or another, the Dockers are either somebody who helped you out or somebody who kind of hurt you, or that you kind of hurt to get one of your upgrades. The other one is a faction called the Railjacks. And the Railjacks are these people who basically guard the trains that go between cities. Like I said, it's a huge ghostly wasteland in between cities. And trains still have to carry people and goods between the cities and stuff. So the Railjacks are these people who walk on the outside of the trains with these gigantic lightning hooks, and they keep the trains safe from ghosts that are trying to attack and like destroy these trains. So one of these factions helped you to get one of your pieces of gear, and the other one you screwed over. Which one do you want to be which?
Well, I mean, we're kind of on the side of the Dockers, so it would make the most sense that that was the one that helped us and that we didn't screw them over.
Mm-hmm.
I would think.
Maybe the boat upgrade.
That makes a lot of
I was
sense.
I was actually thinking, and just hear me out, but I was actually thinking that maybe we screwed the railjacks out of maybe not the boat itself, but like engine parts. Like somehow is we've got like train engine parts like as a part of our boat.
Oh man.
Okay, hold on, settle down.
I really love that idea.
Like we stole like some kind of like part of their train in order to upgrade our boat.
Jesus.
What's everybody think about that?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Okay, so here's the choice you have to make. They don't like you, the Railjacks, and you get -2 status with these people. So you're almost on the brink of war with the Railjacks, but at your option, you can spend 1 coin to mollify them and take -1 status with them instead of -2. You want to piss them off a lot?
We're not going to get anywhere making friends with everybody. I already got 2 friends. That's too many.
It's more than you've got coin.
All right, so you're gonna piss them off -2 then. Okay, so then the Dockers, they helped you get an upgrade. They like you, and you get +1 status with them. But at your option, you can spend 1 coin to repay their kindness and take +2 status with them instead. So what do you think?
I mean, I consider myself a dock worker, so I want to be it, but I'll be outvoted here.
If we're going to give our coin to anybody, I think it should be the Dockers.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense to me.
So you want to go ahead and be +2 at the Dockers then? All right, and what we will do is remove that final coin from your stash, but that's fine. Money comes and goes. You can always make it back.
Plus, if we do end up at war with the Railjacks, we need somebody to go to and be like, hey, help us out.
That's absolutely right. Okay, cool. So that will work out pretty well. Let's see here. What we need to do next is choose a favorite contact. So on your playbook, you see a list of contacts. We've got Dowler, an explorer, LaRose, a bluecoat, Amancio, a deal broker, Fitz, a collector, Adelaide Freud, a noble, and Rigney, a tavern owner. So one of these people will be your close friend, longtime ally, or partner in crime. So what do you think? Who's it going to be?
You guys want to pitch one?
What does a deal broker do?
Whatever you want it to do. Anything you
I
can
wondered if
imagine a
they
deal
could
broker
set up
doing.
races.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
See, I was thinking something along the same lines with Adelaide Farrogue. Maybe he gets us into like the higher end gambling brackets.
He's got the prestige to get you up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be that Adelaide is a fan of yours, and that's how you've made it up into that echelon of society.
That patron we might end up going for.
Right. On the other hand, it could be that Amancio gives you the hot tips about like which boats are the most competitive that you need to take out as you're doing these races.
For sure, for sure. You really can't go wrong with a tavern owner.
Yeah.
I feel like I've voiced my opinion a lot. I'll leave this up to someone else.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to get Clank dug in a little bit deeper here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot going on with the boats and stuff like that, so I think this should be Clank's call.
Oh, I mean, Clank likes the boats and these cool train parts. Oh man, you can't wait to tinker with all this. I like either the noble or the deal broker. I think those are both good points. And really, the noble might know the scuttlebutt of good racers too, so that might work for both
Yeah.
of them.
I kind of like the idea of it being a noble who, like, Benji might kind of look up to. Like, he's a higher class than Benji's family is. So, like, Benji has like an aspiration to be more like him, but we're kind of like at this point at least, we're kind of like the fleas on the dog's back, for this guy.
Well, I think it's a girl.
Oh, or
Oh, I
woman.
guess Adelaide is a woman's name.
I was picturing a dude. I'm not gonna lie. He was rather effeminate. That's neither here nor there.
Sure.
Either way works for me.
Okay.
Miss-
Well, one way or another, you're going to do Adelaide Freud. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that works.
All right.
I like the idea that we never know if Adelaide is a male or a female.
It could be, yeah, it could be that Adelaide is like non-binary. That is totally an option. So at this point, I will tell you about two factions that are impacted by your choice. So the situation is that, let's see here, how do I want to mess up your lives? Adelaide is a competitor with the Leviathan Hunters. And so Adelaide wants to be a new Leviathan Hunter ship owner. And they are not very in tight with the Leviathan Hunters in general. So because you are closely connected with them, you take -1 status with the Leviathan Hunters. All right. And then somebody who is helped by this arrangement. It's not going to be the Dockers. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say Adelaide also has connection to the Railjacks. And Adelaide helped you to get your pieces in order for your boat. And so instead of the Railjacks being at -2 status with you, they're only at -1. Adelaide ally. Okay, cool. So we've got all that hammered out. And let's see what else we need to do for this. You've got cohorts, but
That whole situation just makes me uncomfortable.
the fact that Adelaide is so closely tied to a bunch of people.
Yeah, we're like dealing with this person to, gain our renown, and by doing so, are we compromising our beliefs? Are we going against the very things we stand for?
Isn't that the question? Welcome to Blades in the Dark. So at this point, we've got our crew. That process is finished, so we can now jump back into the game. So let's pop over back to the game board area. We can see we've got Benji and Clank and Jonathan Black all arrayed there on the journal, and we can also see that the journal now tells us a little bit of information about the factions and how they relate to all of you. So we were just talking about Benji, who is hanging out with some pilots. Is that right? Cool. There's one pilot in particular who's hanging out with you. This pilot is new to the racing scene. Her name is Tasho. And Tasho is clearly a Severosi woman. She comes from this culture of people who are sort of nomadic. They wander through the Deathlands, and they're a scavenger people. But she is, nonetheless, a darn fine boat racer. And not a whole lot is known about her. She's pretty stoic and quiet. But at the very least, you know that she has a very nice boat, and she must have some high connections to be able to have a boat that's so nice. So, Benji, you are in this group of pilots, and Tasho is one of them. And Tasho is being her usual stoic self. You've just, I don't think you actually said anything about what you were doing in terms of the dock worker rabble-rousing conversation. Is that right?
He's kind of paying like half attention to what's going on, but he's definitely not what I would call involved.
Okay. And so you're just kind of lackadaisically observing the goings-on then. Nice.
Yeah, probably more keeping an eye on Clank and how involved he's getting, to try to make sure that I don't have to pull his ass out of there
Yeah.
in a hurry.
He's got a tendency to maybe run his mouth. Cool. So, Jonathan, what about you? Where are you situated here in these docks?
I think that between the three of us, we're kind of forming a triangle right now. Me in between both Benji and Clank, maybe in front of them both so they can see me. And I feel like I'm maybe not as well known around here, but people involved with the Dockers are aware of like my family working here and my lineage here. So my affiliation is kind of known. So I'm not necessarily vital to the actual rabble rousing, if you will. So I'm just kind of, my presence being there is what would be expected of me.
Cool. Yeah, so you're just kind of hanging back, keeping an eye on things, and listening to the speech that's going on then. All right. So, and speaking of the speech, Roth Dava up on his, he's standing on like a big crate, right? And he's talking about, and he finishes with, "So my fellow workers, what we need to do is understand how much power we have together, and trust me when I say that we will gain power in the days and the weeks and the months ahead of us, because we are a force to be reckoned with, and we deserve to be taken seriously." And a few of the dock workers, yeah. You hear a few of them as they're walking away like, this is a bunch of crap. It's not worth anything. One of them, in fact, passes by Clank and is like, "I don't know why you're so excited about all this."
Clank looks at him and stares at him, and he says, "It'll be good."
Yeah, okay. I guess we know why Dava was the one making the speech. And, and he starts to walk away.
I really want to throw a wrench at him now.
You can do it if you want to.
I'm going to wind up to throw a wrench at him.
Okay, so as you wind up to throw this wrench, you feel a hand on your forearm, right, that kind of stops you, and you look over, and it's Dava, and he says, "I heard you telling some rabble-rousing yourself out there in the crowd. I appreciate it, I truly do."
We must protect the workers.
Yes, we must. I say, you're connected with one of those boat pilots, aren't you?
What have you heard?
Coyle, standing next to him, kind of like tugs on his sleeve and points at a thing on a notebook that they're carrying around. And Dava's like, "Yes, well, I keep detailed notes, and I happen to have informants just about everywhere in this here district. It's no stranger, it's no secret that you've done a little bit of mechanical work for some of these boats before."
As he's talking, like, Clank's hands start to shake a lot.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to spook you, of course, but I wanted to talk to you, and if I could, maybe get a pilot or two on our side, too. You see, these boat races, I don't care how illegal they are, they happen to be extremely popular. And as I'm sure you've noticed, the pilots are somewhat celebrities. And well, to be frank, the Dockers would like to sponsor a pilot and help him or her rise up through the ranks.
I gotta talk to someone.
Oh, please, go right ahead. Tell you what, I'll be over by the crate I was speaking on. You just find me when you're done, okay?
Good.
Very nice, very nice. Wonderful to see you again, Clank. I'll talk to you in a bit. And so Dava and Coyle wander off together.
I mean, Clank will watch them go and kind of be sneaky, but he's not very good at this. Well, actually, I guess he is. So he kind of darts into the crowd once they turn their back and tries to make his way over to Black right now.
Okay.
So I think Black almost, not even almost, Black sees this whole conversation take place. And unfortunately, the people kind of shuffled in the way a bit, so I wasn't necessarily able to make out the phrases of the conversation. But as I see Clank kind of exit the crowd, I fixed the lapel of his jacket or whatever, and What did he want to talk to you about?
Dava wants to sponsor Racer.
Sponsor a racer? The Dockers want to sponsor a racer?
So he said.
Well, shoot, Benji's gonna shit his pants.
Sounds messy.
It's an expression, Clank. Term of phrase, nonetheless.
How do you turn a phrase?
And Black just kind of looks at you and shakes it off. Right on. Let's go. Let's go talk to Benji. And turn our direction towards him.
All right, so Benji is talking with some pilots, and there are a few of them who are boasting. You know, one of them's like, I would be the greatest pilot in this entire race, and there's no way any of you are going to beat me, I swear. I'd be surprised if any of you even finish.
Look, the only way you're ever going to be the best is if I'm not racing anymore. You hear it?
Oh, is that so? I don't even know who you are. You seem like you're brand new to the circuit. Are you, what's your name again?
Did you not watch the race that just took place? What do you think we're toasting here?
You mean yesterday? Because we're about to start a race, is what's happening.
Oh, well, sometimes I move so fast, I don't really realize what time it is.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's Benjamin Street, in case you're wondering. It's a name you'll hear.
Benjamin Overstreet. Wow, he looks around to the other people and he's like, seems like this fella thinks he's a noble.
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, I am, actually.
Oh, are you now? How fancy. Well, Mr. Noble Overstreet, perhaps we'll see each other out there on the water. And he taps you real hard on the shoulder, and then he...
While he's speaking, like, Clank comes up behind him and just stands there quietly.
Okay. So,
you can bet on it.
Why don't you give me a command, so you choose the action. I think command makes a lot of sense because it's kind of like an intimidation thing. You could also just do wreck and kind of like shove him to the side or something like that, but whatever action you want to take.
Actually, can I set off like a small explosive like right by his head?
Oh man, okay. Like a black cat or something, like a little firecracker?
Yeah.
Yeah, do that.
So can that be wreck?
Yeah, so that'll be wreck. And what I'm going to say is that this is a controlled position for you. So you are in a good spot. He's not expecting this. There's no really stressful conflict happening right now. And the effect is you are in a controlled position. And the effect will be standard. Now, what that means is that if you succeed on your roll, then you will do the thing successfully.
Do I get any bonus dice?
You don't unless you want to push yourself.
No. Okay.
Okay. So what you can do though. Okay, you already rolled. That's fine. So we have. Let me see here. 2 and 5. All right. So 5 is a mostly good success. Let's see exactly what this is going to mean. In a controlled position, you hesitate, withdraw and try a different approach, or else do it with a minor consequence. A minor complication occurs, you have reduced effect, you suffer lesser harm, you end up in a risky position. So, you do successfully set off a firework on this guy's ear. And it pops right next to him. He's like, ah, oh no, ah, and he starts screaming, and like some of his friends grab him and take him away, and a couple of them look over their shoulder at you, and you know that now at least one other boat crew has it out for you and anybody that you're affiliated with.
He says, celebration.
So that's the consequence that you're going to have to deal with as they walk away and give you the stink eye. But you all are free to act now.
Black takes his lighter back. God damn it. Can't go setting off fireworks in people's ears. I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter if we sabotage the boat or the driver.
It was celebration.
Why don't you just announce it to the whole goddamn world?
They walked away.
Like, there's a lot you've got to learn about being subtle.
Yeah. So I'm coming from a boat driver. A
Well,
boat driver?
I guess none of us are very subtle. And he kind of looks over at at Clank.
What?
Well,
Well, I got some good news for you, Benji. Looks like someone wants to sponsor you over at the Dockers.
you're serious.
I'm serious.
David approached me.
The big guy, Dover.
Yes.
Seen it myself.
He wants to sponsor me.
Yes, he wants
He didn't necessarily
drivers
say
on Docker's side.
him himself, but the Dockers.
Wow. All right. What's the gig? What's he paying?
We gotta meet him.
Right. Okay.
Figured there wasn't any sense in none of us meeting him when you're the boat driver.
All right. Well, let's not keep the man waiting then. He'll make his excuses for leaving the rest of the pilots.
While Benji's wandering off, I'll set off more firecrackers. Not, yeah, just like celebration.
I love it. All right, cool. So, yeah.
And I'm trying to distract it so Benji can get away without people realizing he's going.
Sounds good. Yeah, so it's an effective distraction. Benji manages to slip away, and are all three of you going to go over and talk to Dava? Cool.
I'll probably meet up with them after I get through my firecrackers.
Yeah, I almost feel like Black has like his arm around Benjino, and he's like spitting out all this information he's picked up in regards to this deal, maybe. Though none of it probably as effective as talking to him. Just kind of like plotting half-assed schemes before we get to this guy.
Sounds good. All right, so you get over to Dava, and Dava's like, Clank, welcome back. Thank you so much for wrangling some of your friends here. I'm Roth Dava. He extends a hand to Benji first.
Benji will take it in both of his hands and kind of shake it, almost bordering on overzealously. Give him a real big pearly smile. Pleasure to
Well,
meet
the pleasure's all mine. Clearly, yes. Well, and you are, and he reaches a hand out to Jonathan as well.
Jonathan Black, sir. Loyal to the Dockers for many years.
Well, very nice, very nice. Now, of course, I don't speak for all the dockers. There are a lot of us, but I have a cohort of companions down at the docks, and we are big fans of the races. Of course, you know that we dockers are not people of means. We work hard, and to be frank, we're undercompensated for it. Well, you see, we want to change that
Clank says
situation.
truth.
Yes, thank you very much, Clank. Thank you very much. We want to change that situation, and we think that an alliance with maybe an up-and-coming boat racer might be able to help us accomplish that.
Well, sir, you happen to be in luck this evening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, are you familiar with the plight of the dockers, Mr. Overstreet?
I am, actually. I consider myself a friend of the Dockers. You see, I'm a friend of Clank here, and my friend Jonathan here.
Clank gives him a hearty slap on the back, and he calls Clank a friend.
He can be a bit much sometimes, but he's a good lad to have in your corner.
Wonderful, yeah. And so I'm sure Clank has told you, and your own friends have told you as well, that injuries on the workplace and even deaths in the workplace have increased almost threefold over the past year.
I wouldn't say that he'd used that language, sir. No. But yeah, he did imply that things had gotten a little worse, and it's a damn shame.
My cousin lost a pinky.
That's what he told me, sir.
Yes, well, unfortunately, we've had some people lose a lot more than just a pinky. It's a crying shame, and that's part of what I'm here to talk to you about. We don't have a lot of money to sponsor a racer, but we think that if we could support you in some other way, perhaps with information, then maybe we can help you rise through the ranks, and maybe you'll remember us once you've done so.
Well, um, just like a city is built on a foundation of workers like yourselves, good intelligence is always a good foundation for success, I say.
Yes, well spoken, Mr. Overstreet. Well, let me be frank with you about our situation here. I know that there are a lot of races competing today. I think it's a dozen, as a matter of fact. I heard it's one of the biggest races in quite some time, to be honest with you. And I know that at least two of these races are somewhat sympathetic to the Dockers' cause. I think either one of these races could maybe help us to increase our standing, give us more resources so that we can better organize and help each other out. But there is a bit of a catch. The two races in question, one of them I noticed you were speaking with just earlier. Her name's Tasho. I think she's new to the circuit just like yourself.
She's making quite a splash, sir.
Yes,
Yes, she seems impressive.
well, she's got a very nice boat as well, and I have to say, it points to some high and mighty connections there. And I'm positive that Tasho has muttered enough in taverns around the docks that she would be willing to loan us some Sparkcraft equipment if we were only to prove to her that we are mutual friends. And the other potential person you could talk to, I don't know if you're aware of him, his name is Hutton. And just the mention of the name almost sends a chill down your spines because Hutton is indeed a well-known figure. Hutton is a particularly volatile racer, and he happens to also be the leader of the Grinders gang. Can everybody see me? It looks like my computer's locking up. Oh no!
I can see
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Okay.
we're-
Cool. My computer's being very loud right now, and the video is frozen up on, at least on OBS, but it looks like it might still be going in Twitch. So we're going to assume everything's okay. I've got the
So
chat
it's
window
good,
open
so.
now. So if anybody has any issues, just let me know, and we'll deal with that when we come to it. So anyway, Dava says, yes, Hutton is a powerful man, and he has connections among many Scotlanders in the area. I think he could help to unite some of the Scotlanders who work among the docks, and I think he could be a real ally to us in building a movement of dockers who are willing to stand up for themselves. Either one of these could be a real boon to our efforts, but unfortunately, Tasho and Hutton are involved in a very public rivalry with each other. To speak plainly, they hate each other. And I think one of them or the other would be willing to help us out, but only if we were to hinder the other one as a gesture of goodwill. Now, I'm not trying to say that y'all are engaged in any sort of untoward activity out on the waters, but perhaps if there were an accident that were going to happen and one or the other of these individuals took a dive, I could point out that perhaps I had something to do with that, and the other one would be willing to work with me.
Well, so we do have a bit of history with the Grinders, and Hutton's a right bastard. Honestly, he's a scoundrel and not in a good way, if you know what I mean.
Well, I didn't want to say it myself, but if you're going to confirm, then I'll go ahead and agree with you.
And I'm pretty sure he'd cut the throat of his own mother if he could make money out of it.
I've heard much the same. I have indeed. He is a volatile man, no question.
So I think we'd be willing to do a favor from Miss Tasho. That is.
Very well. All right. Well, tell you what, I don't want to tip my hand too much here, so it's been very nice chatting with you. But I'll let you get on to the race, and I'll just make my subtle little exit if that's all right.
Power to the workers.
Yes, power to the workers. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Clank. And so Dava is going to make his way away. And at this point, I think we're ready to make our engagement roll to jump into the score. How's that sound?
Excellent.
All right, cool. So this score is taking place during the race, obviously. And it's going to be you guys get to pick which one of the types of score you want to do. So what are you feeling like?
What are the types of scores again? Sabotage was one of them. Is that right?
I'm sorry. Let's see here. Let me pull that up. If somebody's got their character sheet, it's listed on the bottom of the character sheet.
Okay. Should look there first. Sorry.
Is it the assault, occult, deception,
Oh, that's right.
social, stealth, or transport?
Guys, hold on just a second. I'm hearing that the audio is fine, but the video is frozen, so I'm going to stop the stream really quick. Is that the solution? Let's see. Hold on just a second. I'm going to chat with one of the guys.
In this case, I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a quick break then.
Yeah, I don't see the scores, Eli.
Hold on just a second. Let me If I'm going to turn the broadcast back on, I should probably also turn the audio back on. Okay, so we are back, and I've changed the game board up so that we are now displaying a map of the docks, ready for our engagement. When I come back... So what we need to do is determine our engagement roll, right? And what the first step of that is determining what score you guys want to go on. So whoever has their character sheet open, there's that. It's not exactly the middle column. It's kind of like the off-center column. But underneath planning and load, you can see a list of the different score types. So which of those scores would you like to do? It's basically a determination of how you're going to conduct them yourself during this skiff race.
And what he was asking us to do was to mess up the other racer, right?
Correct, yeah. So sabotage is certainly appropriate.
I don't think it's one of the ones that's listed as the... I've got assault, occult, deception, social, stealth, and transport.
Mm-hmm. So I think then maybe the two scores that would be most appropriate are either assault or stealth, and it's basically a question of how loud and open you want to be about this.
Is that the score? That says the plan for me.
The plan is
Oh,
what I
that might
meant.
be.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You're just
Would
using a term.
Deception maybe work? Method?
I was thinking that was a possibility.
Okay.
That's kind of what my eye went to.
So we're doing deception and we're doing a sabotage type thing for this. Is that right?
Works for me.
Cool. So deception, what is the detail that you need to determine for a deception?
What boat is his?
Well, but there's
I think
there's a
it's method.
specific method. Okay, so the method of the deception then is to sabotage.
Yeah.
So we've got all that determined. Now what we're going to do is handle the engagement roll. So on your crew playbook, there should be a button for the engagement. Let me just switch over to that really quick and take a look and tell you where it's at. We have engagement is again in the middle column just above the notes section. And I'll go ahead and roll this. So you get one die just for sheer luck. Is this operation particularly bold or daring? What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, if there's 12 racers
Mm-hmm.
and the dockers and stuff are already gathered here, I imagine there's probably a lot of attention right now.
Cool. And it's certainly a situation where you're punching up. You're dealing with the grinders who are a higher tier gang than you. So
We're dealing with their leader, nonetheless.
Right. So I'll give you another die for that. And let's see. This is a sabotage thing, so you get a bonus die for that. This is your favored operation. Is this operation overly complex or contingent on many factors? I wouldn't say so.
I mean, we just need to make sure he doesn't win, right?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I thought our objective was to kill him.
Oh no.
I don't think so. That's not what I got.
Okay, no, it's fine. That's good then, because I'm not the saboteur.
Okay, so it's not super complex. The plan's detail, which is sabotage, does it expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they're weakest? I wouldn't say so. I mean, I imagine this is a pretty dirty race circuit. I think people are kind of expecting, But with that in mind, is the target strongest against this approach, or do they have particular defenses or special preparations? Yeah, I think since this is a dirty circuit, they're going to make some preparations. So you've gone from 3 dice to 2 dice. Can any of your friends or contacts provide aid or insight for this operation? What are who are your allies and how might they help you?
I've got Salia, an information broker.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think there's a flashback scene.
Yeah, okay. Well, tell you what. We know that she can help. So
Okay.
let's add the die. And then the first thing we
Okay.
can do once we actually make this roll and determine our starting position, then we will do the flashback and take care of that right away.
Excellent. Okay.
Cool. Are any enemies or rivals interfering in the operation? Not this time. Are there any other elements that you want to consider? Tier, location, etc. So I think you're punching up. This gang that you're fighting is a higher tier than you. So that would be a potential minus die. But this is also an operation that you guys are really familiar with, so I think that kind of evens out, you know. So I think we've got 3 dice for the engagement roll. And what I will do now is go ahead and roll this. And as you can see, we are dealing with 4, a 1, and a 5. So your highest was a 5, which means you're in a risky position when the action starts. Risky is the standard position, by the way. So that's really not so bad. So we've got that. And here's the scene. You're all in this canal. You're loaded up. Because there are 12 boats, there are maybe 3 or 4 to a row. And so there are multiple rows. And it's going to be a circuit around the docks, around the entire district. So there's plenty of time for these boats to gain and lose ground. But as we're sitting here, here's something I want to know. One of the videos that we used for inspiration behind the scenes was this dinghy derby thing that goes on down in Australia. And it's basically just this tiny little tin boat that's been super souped up to be this monstrous racing machine. And it's got 2 people in the boat. One person is the pilot who steers, and the other person is like a ballast counterballast type thing. I think Benji is obviously the pilot. Is anybody working as the like momentum ballast in this boat too, or is it just a 1-person thing? And I think what that means mechanically is that if somebody's in the boat, then they're going to be taking a lot fewer flashbacks than they would if they were instead watching from the sidelines and like thinking about all the stuff that they did to prepare ahead of time.
I don't think Clank would be in the boat. He'd be in like the dock pits.
Okay.
I think I might be in the boat.
You might be in the boat? Okay. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so then we know all of that information, and there is a figure on the dockside. It's this old man who's been the race dude forever. And he has this pistol that he raises up into the sky, and he goes, "All right, it's time to race!" And he shoots the pistol off. It goes up into the air. Engines are already revving, and everybody just tears off down this river. But first, we flash back, because before this race ever started, Benji talked to his contact. And what kind of action do you want to take? How do you want to set this up?
Okay, so the list of actions, it's not the same as the plan list. Is that correct?
Correct. For a flashback, I believe you have a lot more freedom to set up whatever you want to. But you can do things like you can take downtime actions, which means like acquiring an asset ahead of time, gathering information, that sort of thing.
Okay. If I choose gathering an asset, is it something physical that I have to have, or could it be a piece of helpful, like a fact that is helpful?
Sure. If you're going to do that, that's totally possible, but I think that would be more appropriate for gather information than it would be for acquire an asset.
Perfect. Then I would like to do gather information.
Cool. So then you pick one of your action ratings, however you're choosing to gather this information. If you're getting it from your contact, then it's probably more of one of the social actions, but you can describe it however you want.
So I think probably consort.
Cool. Okay. And I'm going to say, there's not a whole lot of time between the conversation that you had with Dava and the beginning of the race, so there's a little bit of a time crunch here. It is a contact of yours, so it's an easy relationship, but I'm still going to say that it's going to cost you 1 stress to be able to make this action.
Okay.
And because our starting position was risky, your position is going to be risky, and your effect can be standard, but then considering this is a close ally, I'm going to upgrade that to a great. So you have the potential for a risky action and a great effect with your consort roll. And what question are you asking your contact, whose name is Stalia?
Salia.
Salia.
Salia. Salia.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm clicking on the consort button now.
Yeah, so you click consort, and then you'll set the position and effect.
Okay, in position you said was risky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I can submit. And the effect is
Great.
great. Okay, and then submit. Bonus dice.
So if you
0.
choose to push yourself right now, you could get a bonus die, but I don't know that you need to necessarily.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Cool.
Okay.
So go ahead and click roll then. And what's your highest result?
4.
A 4. So you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer harm, a complication occurs, you have reduced effect, you end up in a desperate position. So first of all, what was the question that you were asking? You wanted to know the weakness?
Yes. Find a weakness with his boat, with his skill set, something to that effect.
Cool. So yeah, you find out that Hutton does indeed have an engine that's a little rickety. But the consequence is that you found out that it's rickety, but there's a complication. You're going to end up in a desperate position because Hutton has a co-pilot. And this co-pilot is basically only there to be a guard against other people who are going to try and stop his boat. And so if you want to get to a position where you can sabotage that engine, you're going to have to find a way past this guy. Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
that was your flashback. We rocket down the river here, and we've got some maneuvering and stuff that's going to be happening. Jonathan, you're up in the front of the boat, and you can see like already boats are jostling up against each other. There's water splashing everywhere, and this is not pleasant water. It's not even that it's oily. It's not quite water. It's inky black. There's this mist that I mentioned earlier that's coming up over everything, and yeah, so now you're in a desperate position. These boats are really jostling the boat that you guys are on. How do people want to react to this?
I think I think that maybe I guess I really don't know how I want to word this. With all these boats around me, I guess I kind of want to just kick out against somebody who's like, I figure the pilots are on like the left. I don't know. Would they be on the left or right side? I guess it really doesn't matter. Whoever is just
it's up to you. Yeah.
Whoever is like, brushing up against our skiff here, I'm just going to kind of reach out and attempt to skirmish them away or into the water.
Very nice. So you're going to like grab them and try and pull them into the water or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So this is a desperate position, like I said. So go ahead and click on the skirmish button and then set the position for desperate. I'm going to say that in the chaos here, it's going to be a standard effect. And then do you want to push yourself? Do you want to take a devil's bargain? So here's the difference between these two. When you push yourself or when you take a devil's bargain, you can choose to either roll one die or increase your effect, right? You have that choice. If you push yourself, you take 2 stress to get one of those 2 benefits. If you make a devil's bargain, you just get the thing, but I tell you how the situation will be complicated to make things worse for you later on.
Oh man, they sound so enticing. I think I'm just going to leave it as standard. I'm not necessarily trying to accomplish anything more than like what I would normally do in this spot.
Sure.
So this is kind of just a run-of-the-mill skirmish here.
Okay. So go ahead. The position is desperate. The effect is standard, and no bonus dice. So go ahead and make that roll. And what'd you get?
I got my highest was a 4. No, that's Jeremy's. My highest was a 2.
A 2. Fuck. Okay.
I broke
It's the
broke my body.
it's the worst outcome. You suffer severe harm, a serious complication occurs, you lose this opportunity for action. So here's what I'm going to say. In the mix-up, you reach across and you try and pull this guy into the water. The dude overmasters you and starts to dunk you into the water instead. So the severe harm will be that you are dumped into the water and battered by every passing boat. And that's really bad news. Do you want to resist this?
How exactly would I go about resisting it?
So the way you resist, if you choose to resist, you are guaranteed to not suffer that harm. But you will, let's see, you made a skirmish roll. So you'll roll prowess for your resistance. And then you'll take 6 stress minus your highest die result.
Okay. I also have tough as nails, so harm is 1 level less severe.
Okay, very nice. So instead of it being severe, it's just moderate harm. So you wouldn't be taken out of this boat and dragged underneath all the boats behind you. Instead, you'd just get a face full of water, and you'd be like a face and lungs full of water. So you'd be coughing and sputtering for a little while.
Right on. Yeah. So, would I still need to use resistance for that?
Well, so now you've got a choice. If you choose to just suffer the harm, then in the harm section on your character sheet, there are 3 levels. And in the second level, you'll write waterlogged. And then anytime you would take an action that could be affected by you having a face and lungs full of water, you take -1 die to your roll.
Okay.
So, and that would happen for the rest of the time. So resisting it means that you won't have to deal with that ever, but you're going to take a lot of stress. And because this is your first action, I think taking the stress makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's the route I'm gonna go.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and click prowess then.
Okay.
And I don't remember if you have to set position and effect for this. I don't think you do.
Nope, just bonus dice.
Okay.
And is that reference to the pips I got in the first column?
No,
Or no?
it'll roll however many are already in the first column. The
Okay.
bonus dice,
So,
I don't think it applies this time.
right on.
And you got a 6?
I got a 6, yes.
Nice. Okay, so you take 6 stress minus your highest die result, which is 6. So you try to reach over and grab this guy, right? You try to pull him into the water. He overmasters you and starts to pull you instead. Somehow, you manage to get out of this thing totally scot-free. You don't even take any stress for this thing. So you get back into the boat, and the boats continue to rocket down the thing. Now, Clank, did you sabotage any of the other boats before the race even started?
Possibly.
Yeah? Okay. Because if you want, you can take a flashback to Tinker or Wreck to set up like a boat exploding right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. So it's a flashback. I'm going to say that this would be a fairly stressful action, so it'll be 2 stress for you. Because this is like there are people getting into their boats and you're finding some way to mess them up while that's happening.
So I get 2 flags on my stress now.
Correct, yeah. And Baron made a desperate action. So Baron, whenever he gets back, we need to remind him that he should mark experience under the prowess track. So Baron, now that you're back, I forgot to tell you, because you rolled a desperate action, your desperate skirmish action, you mark experience in the prowess track.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, so...
Look at me go.
Yeah, first experience of the game. Congratulations. Clank, you are also making a desperate action this time, so you will mark experience in whatever action you choose, whether it's Tinker or Wreck or something completely different. But tell us how you attempt to sabotage one of these boats.
I don't know if we didn't really go over this, but I'm saying I'm got a normal load. And so
Shoot, we forgot to set load. Yeah, everybody needs to set their load.
For the record,
I've
I'd
already-
be normal as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I picked my items, but I guess it doesn't really matter too much. But I've got fine wrecking tools. So I assume it's kind of... I don't know exactly what it would be, but it was something that you can't see too well, and I'm pretty quiet with using them. So I kind of go around the pits before, talking to different people, and I make my way to like all of them. I mean, there's lots of people going in and out of the pits all the time, and so I don't want people to think I was around any certain boat too long. But there were actually two of them that, as I was looking there really quietly, I did something to that. Nothing would be able to happen right away, but some catastrophic consequences would happen.
Very nice. And so, just so you know, you have fine wrecking tools. Fine is a mechanical term, it's a measure of quality. And what that basically means, like, I would tell you this action is desperate, your position. And because it's also in such like a compromised situation, your effect would be limited. But your fine wrecking tools improve the limited effect up to standard, right? And then if you wanted to push yourself and gain a little stress on top of what you've already gained, then you could increase that effect up to great if you want to as well.
Well, and with my saboteur, okay, it's just quieter. That's all. Okay, since the damage is not easily recognizable. But yeah, I'll push myself. That sounds good.
Cool. All right. So you're going to push yourself. So go ahead and mark 2 stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so now this is a desperate action with a potentially great result. And you're doing wreck for this action, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead and set all that up. And because you pushed yourself to raise your effect, you don't get an additional die, but your success will be greater if you succeed.
So it's risky?
It's desperate. And it's a great effect.
And no bonus die.
Correct. What'd you get?
A 4.
A 4. Okay, so you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer severe harm, a serious complication occurs, you have reduced effect. So I'm going to say you have reduced effect. So you went from great to standard, which is still a fine success. And here's what I was thinking. If you had a great success, then you would set this up to be timed in such a way, like you know the track really well, right? You know the water course really well. And you were going to set this up in such a way that when this boat malfunctioned, it was during a choke point, and all of the boats behind it would have been wrecked as well. So you could have taken out multiple boats, but the timing of this thing was off a little bit, and so the boat actually clears through the choke point before it gets sabotaged. And so you do destroy this one boat. There are only 11 boats left in the race now, but you could have taken out multiple ones. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Cool. All right, so very nice. So this boat like explodes behind Benji and Jonathan, who are just ahead of it, and like some debris maybe pelts Benji's back a little bit. And you also hear, very similar to when Jonathan smokes his electroplasmic cigarettes, you hear this kind of like type noise coming from the water itself. But then in the smoke and fire, I imagine it's this like electric blue kind of fire from this explosion, because all these boats are powered by lightning oil. 2 boats careen through this fire, and sure enough, it's Hutton and Tasho, and they're both coming up on the boat that Benji and Jonathan are in, and they're both like bouncing off of each other and trying to push each other into debris and that sort of thing. So does anybody have any actions they want to take at this point?
Can I be somewhere along the track that is not well populated by viewers?
Absolutely.
Can I do something to an obstacle that could fall onto the track?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Okay. So we're still in a desperate position. And I would imagine you're probably trying to wreck something.
Yes.
So maybe there's like some debris or something that you can knock down to complicate the track even a little further.
Yes, but no one knows I'm there.
Of course not. Yeah. That's the thing. So actually, you could do wreck or prowl. Either one of those action ratings would work pretty well.
I'm going to do wreck.
Okay. Position is desperate. Your effect will be...
So that's 2 stress?
Yes. No. This isn't a flashback. This is a current action.
So, oh, okay.
Yeah, but you will mark experience in prowess because you're using wreck again.
Okay.
So you are making a rec roll. It's a desperate position. The effect I'm going to say is standard because you're in a pretty good position to be able to do this. This is the first time we know where you are actually during the race. Do you want to push yourself for additional dice or to improve your effect or something?
No, I'm pretty stressed out right now, so I'm not going to push myself.
Okay.
So no bonus.
Yeah, no bonus dice, and so you just go ahead and make your roll.
Ooh, a 6.
A 6. Okay, so you succeed with increased effect. Oh, no, sorry, it's not a critical. You have to roll 2 6s to get a critical. But with the 1 success, you do it, and now we go from being desperate to just being risky. The success has improved everyone's overall position. And so you managed to knock this debris down into the water, and fortunately, Benji and Jonathan managed to zip underneath it before it affected them. But all the boats behind are going to have a tough time. And in fact, because you just got a full success, I'm going to say that Hutton has a much harder time of it than Tasha does. And you can hear, even though he's now, dozens of feet away and the engines are roaring, you can hear him swearing Skovlan obscenities. Ach, Frogen, Fliager, he's mad.
I say language.
Nobody hears you, though, because, of course, you're well hidden. So, Benji and Jonathan, you just saw this happen, and Tasho is up on your tail. Tasho is looking a little aggressive, so how do you want to handle this?
Well, we don't want her to win, do we? Over us?
I mean, you probably want to be the ones to win, but you don't want her to lose.
Okay, so on the character sheet where we have picked our load, I chose 5 for normal, and underneath that there is something called arcane implements.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that would be personal, or could that be something that the craft has, like our boat?
It could absolutely be an artifact on the craft. That's totally
Okay.
fine. And arcane
Cool.
implements, just so you know, would help you with any sort of thing to attune to the ghost field or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that might not be.
What were you thinking? Because we can describe it in a variety of ways.
I'm thinking that like this train engine part for our boat has some kind of not NOS, but basically like a secondary kick in. Like there's something that we can throw in the boiler, or there's a lever that we can throw or whatever, and it goes from our normal speed to, plaid.
I love it.
It's called Eek. It's instead of Nas, it's Eek.
There you go. Perfect.
E-E-K.
I love it. EEK. I love it. So you're going to put some eek in this thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so this would be maybe a tinker roll, maybe a tune or something like that. What do you think?
Oh, let's see. Damn, I don't have either of those things.
You all could do a group action, and this is something that you set up ahead of time. So the way group action works, you would be the leader, and you roll for each character who participates in the group action, and the best single roll counts as the action result, which applies to every character that rolled. Or Clank could take 1 stress and give you a bonus die to your roll.
I'll do that.
Okay. So then you don't have either Tinker or Attune, you said, Benji?
I do not. No.
Okay. So you can choose whichever one you want. We're in a risky position, and the effect is going to be standard. It would be limited, but you have this arcane implement, so it's going to improve it to standard. Now here's the deal. You can choose to trade position for effect. So since you're risky, you can say, no, I want to make this a desperate action. But instead of it being a standard effect, it's a great effect. And the benefit for you is that you get experience, and you'll have more effect if you succeed.
Hell yes.
Okay, so you want to do
Definitely.
that then?
Yeah.
So we're dealing with desperate position, great effect, and you get 1 die from Clank, which means that you roll just this 1 die for Tinker.
Okay. So desperate position and great effect
Hmm.
and 0 bonus dice. All right.
Well, one bonus die.
Oh, 1 bonus die.
Yeah, because that's the assist.
Right. Okay. Here goes Denton. That's a 3.
3. Ooh, shoot. Okay, so it's the worst outcome. You suffer severe harm, a serious complication occurs, you lose this opportunity for action. So here's the deal. You're rocketing along this river, and you're trying to pull ahead of Tasho. And so you shout out to Jonathan or something like, hit the eek, whatever. The eek hits, and it rockets you forward. But then at the same time, smoke starts pouring out of the engine, and you realize you've pushed it too hard. So things have become pretty intense right now, and you need to end things quickly before your boat just takes you completely out of the race. And so what happens? You guys are rocketing down the river here, and you actually come out around. You come out around into the river proper, and you are now over by the docks, and there are these big merchant ships that are there, right? And so what you need to do is maneuver around these merchant ships. Fortunately, you're a heck of a pilot. Unfortunately, your boat is belching smoke.
And there isn't a way to not absorb. What was the term? Resist? I think that's the term.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can. Resisting is actually a thing about harm. I don't think it's a thing about.
Okay.
No, you reduce or avoid the consequence. That's it. So you can definitely resist that roll to not suffer this consequence.
I think I would like to try that.
Cool. And you did tinker?
I did tinker.
Okay, in which case it's an insight resistance roll.
Okay, so I have 2 dots total in insight.
Nice. So then you'll just click the insight word, and there's no position or effect. There's no bonus die. Unless Jonathan wants to take some stress and assist you, you could get a bonus die for that.
I think I most definitely would, just to fulfill my role as co-pilot here.
Of course, yeah.
I'm
Of
kind
course.
of,
Okay.
I gotta hand you your drink while you're driving. What is this?
All right, so 1 bonus die then.
Okay, so go
All
ahead
right.
and give me your insight resistance.
Here we go.
And I take 1 stress for that.
You do. And then Benji, you take 6 stress minus the highest die result, which I think is 5.
Yeah, it's a 5.
Okay, cool. So you take 1 stress from this. So your boat rockets ahead, and all of a sudden you're a good distance in front of Tasho. It also starts belching smoke, and you realize something's going on really wrong. But then the two of you put your heads together and like smack it with a wrench or something. I'm sure Clank would be super proud. And you managed to,
or super disappointed, one or the other.
well, yeah, you know. But one way or another, you guys rocket out into the river proper here, and you're dealing with some bigger waves now, and you've got some ships that you have to maneuver around. You guys have had a few actions, so I want to jump back to Clank. Clank, did you maybe try and sabotage Hutton's boat before this whole thing happened, or because that would be a really tough one I mentioned?
Yeah, I don't know if I can take much more stress. He's behind now, right? Because of my deadfall.
Uh-huh.
Does the course take him back through another area that I could get to after I did that one?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, like, I mean, you could just say that you have a gun or something, and you could take a ranged shot. We could just say that not much time has passed. You know what I mean?
I don't know what I'm shooting at.
You could be trying to shoot at his engine block and trigger that weakness that Benji found earlier.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. What weakness did Benji find?
Benji found that his engine is kind of rickety, but it's armored and it's got a dude who's protecting it also. And so it would be a tough shot, but that's one way that you could use wreck or hunt or something to try and take him out. And I'll say also, regardless of what you choose to do, wherever you happen to find yourself here on the river, Hutton and Tasho are duking it out once again.
I don't want to shoot something. I want to wreck something that like would fall on him. Are they going to go under a bridge or something?
Yeah, so you could say that you're waiting. Maybe you got some sort of like land vehicle. You commandeered a dire goat and rode it down the road or something to make it to this bridge. Or maybe you have a flashback and you rigged up some kind of explosive that you can charge to rain down debris on top of him.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
That there's a certain bridge that I know they're going to go under, and I'm going to rig it. Can I trigger that from a distance?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. You can say you have like a remote thing or something.
Yeah, so I want to rig it and remote so that their part of the bridge collapses on the track.
Okay.
That should be enough to damage an engine.
And I have a really good idea for a consequence if this screws up. So, your flashback, you started in a risky position for the entire score. So I'm going to say that your position is risky right now.
Okay, so am I stressed now?
You'll take 1 stress. This is a lower thing. The stress came not from necessarily that you had to rig this, but that you're rigging this on a place that's like publicly traveled. So there could be some serious consequences if you're caught.
That's fine. But my wrecking is quieter, so
that's a good point. Yeah. So so that will definitely affect the consequences if you suffer them. So you're in a risky position. I'm going to say that your effect will be standard. Do you want to trade position for effect? Go down to desperate for a great effect, or what do you think?
And if it's desperate,
you mark experience points, and the consequences are greater if you fail.
Sure. So
okay. So you're going to do desperate for great effect.
So.
Oh, and you're using your wrecking tools, I'm sure.
Yes.
So you've actually got like an exceptional effect. This could be the game ender. This could be the score.
Extreme?
Extreme would be the thing. Yeah, whatever is above great.
Okay. And no bonus die.
No bonus die. Yep.
A 6. Yes.
Nice. Okay, and just the 1 6. So you do it. So you manage to, and this is extreme effect. Man, okay. So Benji and Jonathan are ripping underneath this bridge that you can see in the image on Roll20. And they get under it, and Tasho and Hutton are duking it out, right? They're like neck and neck. It almost looks like their boats are connected, hooked up against each other somehow. And this bridge, is it an explosive? It rains down stone debris or something like that? What happens?
I mean, no one hears an explosive. It just all of a sudden stones drop onto the track.
Very nice. Okay, so these mysterious stones just fall on top of the water, and they start plunking down. And Tasho and Hutton are like, "Oh no!" And all of a sudden, Tasho manages to yank her boat over just enough so that Hutton's boat is the one that takes most of the impact of all these stones. And all of a sudden, it's starting to belch smoke, and it's really starting to slow down and everything. So I think at this point, Tasho takes out ahead, but she's still well behind Benji and Jonathan. But you guys aren't quite in first place yet. There are still some boats that were ahead of you. And so we've got another situation where it's kind of crowded up there, and there are some people jostling back and forth, or people who are coming up to jostle back and forth, actually. Jonathan, do you want to try and maybe like shoot these people or try and sabotage them somehow to make sure that you guys keep your lead? What do you think?
You see Jonathan like kind of fumbling through his wet duster that got soaked, in the last one, and kind of shakes his head as he pulls out some like brass knuckles that he had put in his pocket earlier. Nice. And he's like, I don't know why I didn't use these before. So as this guy comes up to kind of like run into us, I just kind of sock him one right across the face to kind of.
Very nice. Okay, so this is what item is this that you're using?
An unusual weapon.
An unusual weapon. Okay, cool. So this will increase your effect. So it would be a risky position, and I'm going to say that it goes from standard to being great. So this is a fairly simple roll for you, unless you want to trade position for effect or do something like that.
No, I feel like I'm just trying to succeed in this.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
so much show off. I'm going skirmish again.
Sounds good. So risky and great, and what'd you get?
God damn it! I got a 2.
Oh no! Things go badly. You suffer
I did.
harm. A complication occurs. You end up in a desperate position. You lose this opportunity. So you go to punch this guy, right? And you whiff. And the dude is like, I'm not going to take that. He jumps over onto your boat, and he is now going to fight you. So you are in a desperate position for your next action because he wants to throw you off. And then if he throws you off, it's just him and Benji's got work to do, right?
Yeah. I need to stop hitting people, Benji.
So Benji, what do you think? What are you doing?
Well, first he responds, "You ain't hit nobody as far as I've seen." I think Benji is. I think there's a shortcut that maybe he knows about, but it's dangerous, and he is going to use that to get ahead.
Very nice. So this could be either like a maneuvering roll to get through this, or it could be like an insight kind of roll to know about the path.
Yeah, I definitely would like to go with finesse. So I think a maneuvering roll is probably more the angle I'm going to take.
Sure. So we can describe what the exact shortcut looks like afterward, but let's go ahead and roll. So
Okay.
Your position is now desperate. You've got a dude on your boat, and things are getting hectic.
Okay.
Your effect, you're a master pilot, so I'm going to say that your effect would be standard. Normally, it would be kind of compromised in this hectic situation. Actually, I'm going to say it'll be great. You can have a great effect from this thing. Oh, no problem.
Sorry.
It doesn't actually change the roll at all. It just changes the text that's on there. So
Perfect.
And you got a what?
A 6 and a 1.
Nice. Okay, so the 6 is a success. So first of all, that was a desperate roll. So mark experience and prowess.
Okay, excellent.
And then so you succeed. So tell us about this shortcut. What happens and how do you navigate through it?
So nearby, there's actually a warehouse that my family used to do business with, but it's defunct right now. It's not being used. And I happen to know that it has doors that feed directly into this canal, both in the front here and on the other side, which happens to be kind of around the corner where this racetrack leads. And so I actually angle the boat in such a way that I just basically hit the weak point of this door, and it just kind of busts open, and I drive straight through this empty warehouse and right out the other side.
I love it. That's super cool. All right, very nice. So Jonathan, you're going through this warehouse, and there's this dude like fist fighting you on the front of this cigar skiff. You're going to need to make some sort of roll to get out of this situation. And fortunately, there are no observing eyes in here. So if you wanted to just straight up kill this dude, you'd get away with it.
I think that's kind of the route me and Benji probably have maybe even done this before.
Yeah, the old 1-2.
And so I think that I don't want to use skirmish again. Maybe a finesse, kind of like there's maybe like a hook or something that hangs down in this building that I'm aware of. Like this was always something that we had to watch out for coming through here. There's this this dangerous hook, and so kind of like as we pass under here, I just kind of like use my body to throw this guy up a bit, and he gets kind of caught on this hook and essentially dies if possible.
Nice. And you're thinking this is a finesse roll?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the position is desperate, like I said. The effect, I think, especially if you've done this before, I'm going to say the effect is standard.
Okay.
Because am I picturing this correctly? The boat is not in water right now. It's like skidding over land through a warehouse, or is there like a canal that goes through the warehouse?
Yeah, I think it's the canal. I think it's a canal that goes through the warehouse. Like this place brought boats in one side, offloaded them, and then they left the other side instead of trying to turn around inside the warehouse.
Gotcha. Okay. In that
And,
case, then. Oh, go ahead.
no, and this hook is kind of like one of those uh, cranes to get the stuff off the boat and kind of swing it over onto. So it's like kind of just dangling there underneath this canal and, hoist this guy up.
I'll pick a. I mean, if I can help with something, I'll take a stress to say I had rigged something.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And actually, so you did the sabotage on the bridge from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that like you just walked over to this warehouse because you knew that maybe they would make use of it and you wanted to be available to them. So you can be in there ready to do this thing. The docks district is not that big.
Get rid of the body at the very least.
Right. So then you would take a stress, and Jonathan, you would get an additional die.
All right.
And let's see, the position is. Oh, you already rolled?
Yep. Position was desperate, effect standard.
Yeah, that's right.
My highest dice roll was a 4.
Well, you should have had. Do you only have one dot in finesse?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So 4 is your best. You do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer severe harm. A serious complication occurs. You have reduced effect. So it's reduced effect. You manage to get this guy off of the boat, and he hooks onto the hook, but it's his like clothing that gets caught, and so he's not actually dead. He's just like dangling from this thing, right? But you guys blast out the other side of this thing. And actually, no. The dude gets stuck on the hook and the dude dies, but the complication is that Hutton, with his hobbled boat, saw you take this shortcut, and Hutton follows you. So he's not going as fast as you two, but he's definitely still like coming out ahead of everybody else. And you still need to make sure this guy is stopped. And I mean, I don't want to suggest actions, but Clank is right there.
Yeah, I dropped the chain.
You drop it. Okay, cool. I love it. So this is probably wreck again,
Yeah.
or maybe
Like right across the water.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Cool.
Unless it's a tinker.
I think Tinker could work. You like activate the controls to make it fall down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tinker makes a lot of sense to me. So, position is risky because you're in a pretty good spot and he's not expecting you. Effect would be standard. Do you want to trade position for effect?
No.
Or push yourself or take a devil's bargain or anything to gain bonus dice?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, so just standard.
Can I take a stress to assist him?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Um,
How does your assistance manifest?
So I think that since this place is a warehouse that my family was familiar with, that it's something that I probably kicked around here, playing maybe as a kid, or at least used it as a hangout occasionally. So I maybe gave him kind of a crash course on how to use these controls in such a way that they would malfunction in this particular way.
Nice. Okay. Very nice. So then you get an additional die to your tinker roll.
And a stress for me, correct?
Yes, correct.
I got a 4.
4. Okay. So a 4 on risky. You do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer harm. A complication occurs. You have reduced effect. You end up in a desperate position. You manage to lower this thing, and the chain basically rips off the top of Hutton's boat, and Hutton has to jump out of the boat to be able to avoid certain death in this thing. His goon is dead. But Hutton comes up and sees you. That's the complication. And so now Hutton knows that you did this, and all Hutton has to do is connect this to Benji and Jonathan and eventually the Dockers, and then some serious stuff might go down. But the boat is destroyed, which is nice. You've successfully sabotaged it. And I'm going to say that at this point, we don't really need to resolve anything else. You guys were already in the lead, and then you found this shortcut, and you rocketed through there. So
I assume he sees me, but I get out of there. Like, I'm gone.
yeah, absolutely. You don't have to fight the guy or anything.
Like, he just sees me. He doesn't know who I am. He just sees me.
Right.
Okay.
So you get free and clear. That worked out in your favor, so well done. And you come across the finish line. There are dockers and mechanics who are cheering. There are mechanics who are like throwing their tools and kicking their toolboxes because their people lost. Tasho actually manages to come in second. She kind of cruises in, and you can see that some dockers who are familiar with Dava come over and introduce themselves to Tasho. And Tasho's a little steamed, but they kind of walk off with her as she storms off to go find a drink or something. But you all have managed to succeed, and all you have to do is let Dava know like the specific ways that you managed to help out during the time, and he'll make sure that Tasho understands that she had some angels looking out for her. So congratulations, guys. You're finished with your first score. And now we can do a quick downtime round and experience thing to figure out how this is all going to go together. So what you will need to do is get your crew sheet up in addition to your character sheets so that you can see all of that. And I'm going to switch the view on the game board for the benefit of our viewers. So
yeah, and the one that I can see as far as the crew sheet is still the one that I was editing. So I don't see the
crew sheet. We'll figure that out after the fact, and I can actually even update the crew sheet. That's not an issue.
Okay.
Cool. So first off, what we're going to do is payoff. The crew earns 2 rep per score by default. So automatically you get 2 points toward increasing the notoriety and the tier of your crew. Take +1 rep per tier higher. You are going against the grinders, so that's another 2 reps. So you're up to 4 so far. You also earn coin based on the nature of the operation. And just so you know, coin is an abstracted term. 4 coin is like a strong box full of money. It's the most money that you as an individual can carry around without being too weighed down by coinage, right? Whereas like 2 coin is several full purses of monetary units, right? And so based on the nature of the operation, let's see. You won this race, and the dockers weren't able to pay you much, but the race certainly was. And so I'm going to say that your crew will earn... your crew will earn 8 coin. This is a big 7 coin. This is a fairly big score, right? That's significant. Right off the bat, do you want to divide that between the 3 of you? Do you want to maybe each take a coin or 2 or something like that? What do you think?
I think John would take a coin and kind of leave the rest for the funds towards the projects we pursue in the future.
Yeah, Clank would take a coin.
Yeah, and Benji would take a single coin and leave the rest for fixing the problem with the boat.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, cool. So then there are 4 coin on the crew sheet, and then there are 3 divided up between the rest of you. You have to subtract coin equal to your tier plus 1 if you pay a tithe to a ward boss or a larger organization. So remind me, with the grinders, when you occupied their territory in Silkshore, did you pay them off? Do they know you're there? Or did you do that under the radar and piss them off a little bit?
I think we had agreed to pay them a coin.
Yeah, we paid them 1 coin.
Okay. So I think... but that's the thing. Would you pay off the grinders for sabotaging the grinders? I don't know that you would want to, so...
Yeah, see, I was going to say that we did just counteract their boss.
I think it would make sense if you didn't pay any coin to
Yeah.
the ward
I
boss,
agree.
right? That tracks for me. So that's the payoff section of this. The second section of payoff, or the second section of downtime, is heat. After a score or conflict with an opponent, the crew takes heat. Would you guys describe this as a smooth and quiet operation, a contained operation, a loud and chaotic operation, or a wild operation?
I'd probably say wild.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know about wild. I think maybe one step.
maybe loud and chaotic.
Yeah.
Uh,
You,
I mean,
you kind
it
of
was
made it for
chaotic,
yourself.
but we were pretty quiet.
yeah.
Yeah, or maybe even contained.
Contained kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, you.
Yeah, we did have contingencies for almost everything.
And it's a
Yeah,
little.
and Clank did a great job of staying hidden through most of it.
Agreed. Yeah. So there are plenty of reasons why this is maybe a contained operation, which is 2 heat, right? So let's go
Okay.
ahead and add 2 heat to the crew sheet here. And heat builds up until eventually you become wanted. And one of you, either you or one of your lackeys, has to go to jail to take off the heat. And that's like a whole separate element to the game that we'll get to maybe eventually. It depends on how much heat you guys generate. But add +1 heat for a high profile or well-connected target. This was a gang leader that you operated against, so the heat is going to go up to 3. Add +1 heat if the situation happened on hostile turf. I don't think it did. The docks are your territory for the most part, so I think that's fine. Add +1 heat if you're at war, and you're not. Add +2 heat if killing was involved, and you did kill the dude on the hook. So you're.
No, he just happened to die. We didn't kill him.
It was an accident, right?
It was a consequence of him hitting the chain.
Right. Well, but then Hutton saw you, and that's so he knows that somebody died in this race, and at the very least, the doc, like the other pilot from that boat, knows that somebody died. So that's that. Now what we do is we roll dice equal to your wanted level, and read the result according to your heat. So what we need to do is roll fortune. And let's see here. Fortune, number of dice is 0 because you have a 0 wanted level. And the notes are entanglement. That's how you spell entanglement. Yeah, cool. So fortune, you take the lower result. You got a 2, which means something is going to happen to you that I will reveal in the coming sessions as a result of an entanglement that happened from this encounter.
Maybe Clank being seen?
Could be. Who knows? We'll find out.
I bet it's Hutton.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my money's going.
Mm-hmm.
You're both wrong. It's Jonathan made a spectacle of himself in the boat races, and now everyone thinks he's a dirty contestant.
Mm-hmm.
No, they know Jonathan can't throw a punch.
Oh yeah, no joke.
And then the final thing that happens in downtime is the actual downtime phase, right? So you each have 2 downtime activities that you can pursue out of a list of 6 potential activities. If you've accumulated a lot of stress, you should probably indulge your vice at least once. I don't think anybody actually suffered harm in this thing, right? We almost did, but then we resisted it. Okay, so you don't have to worry about recovering.
I have
Reducing.
a lot of stress, though.
You do have a lot of stress, yeah. So indulging your vice makes a lot of sense for at least one of your actions. Reducing heat makes sense for one of your actions. Starting a long-term project makes sense to repair your boat, keep it in good order. Acquiring an asset, if you guys have something you want to do that would require an asset, you can do that. You can also train, where you mark 1 experience point for an attribute or your playbook. Plus 1 experience points if you have the appropriate crew training upgrade. And you guys have prowess training. So if you train prowess with one of your downtime activities, you mark 2 experience in that track, which is pretty nice. So let's talk about your downtime activities. Which ones do you want to partake in? Does anybody want to indulge your vice to clear some stress?
I need to.
Okay, so Clank is definitely going to do that. You roll dice equal to your lowest attribute. So,
I would actually like, if at all possible,
mhm.
to do functioning vice.
Yes, yeah.
Um, now, the first part of it, we'll get to in just a second, but the second part of it is an ally who joins you in your vice may do the same.
Yes, and what that means is you don't necessarily have to have the same vice with someone, but it has to be a situation where that person would join you. So maybe Clank hops himself up on amphetamines and helps you with another race. Maybe Jonathan is, taking
Oh
the
my
edge
God.
off by smoking some of his cigarettes and watching one of your races or something like that.
I think we steal a car, and when Clank is high on amphetamines, we drive around really fast with him on the hood.
Very nice. So you're not necessarily, your vice isn't necessarily strictly racing. It's just that you're an adrenaline junkie. Okay.
Right.
And I will say there are powerboats in this setting, but there are not cars. Instead, they're carriages that are drawn by dire goats. But
I'm riding the goat.
yeah,
Like,
same thing.
Perfect.
So then you both will indulge your vice. And what are the benefits of functioning vice? It's impossible to overindulge or something like that?
When I indulge my vice, I may adjust the dice outcome by 1 or 2, up or down.
Very nice. Okay, so that's good stuff. So both of you will need to make vice rolls, which is on your character sheet, I believe, next to where your vice is recorded. Jonathan, would you also like to indulge your vice?
No, I'm good. I only took 1 stress, so
Oh wow, yeah, you were having a pretty easy time then. Cool. So who rolled that vice roll?
I did. I wanted to take the 6. Why do I have to take the lowest?
Because you don't have the appropriate attribute. Like you roll your lowest attribute. And in this case, you did. I think it was insight, or what's the one on the bottom? Um,
Resolve.
Resolve. That's it. Yeah. And because you had 0 pips in that attribute, you roll 2 dice and take the lower.
Oh, well, why did I do resolve?
Because
I'm
that's what you
confused.
have to do. Whenever you indulge your vice, you always roll your lowest attribute.
Oh,
But you get to adjust it by 1 or 2, up or down.
Yeah. So you actually
well,
get
just
4.
it by 2 up.
Yeah. Sounds good. So you take off 4 stress. And what does that leave you at?
3.
That's not bad. I mean, that's not ideal, but it's not terrible. So I think you're doing all right.
Okay, and there's 0 bonus dice for this, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here is okay. So I will adjust that to a 6, but I only had 3 stress.
You only had 3
So,
stress.
oh wait, you wanna
You do
you
not
wanna
want to
hit the
go
number?
over. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so I will lower it by 1 point then.
Cool. All right. So then you just clear all 3 of your stress and you're good to go. So you guys have a wild night on the streets of Duskfall with a carriage and a goat. Sounds awesome. So Jonathan, you've got 2 downtime activities in front of you. What do you wanna do with those?
first I would like to lower the heat if possible. I
Okay,
believe
yeah.
that was an option.
So the way you reduce heat, you roll your action, whatever you decide to make your action. So if you're like going out and you're tough talking people, maybe it's command. If you're going out and just like punching people into silence, maybe it's skirmish, something like that. If you're like sniping targets, then maybe it's hunt. So you choose which action you want to do. And then you reduce heat according to your result level. So if you get a 1 or 3, you reduce 1 heat. If you get a 4 or 5, you reduce 2. If you get a 6, you reduce 3. And if you get 2 sixes, you reduce 5. So you could potentially clear out all of the heat.
I think I want to do hunt in like maybe I hunt down people. Not necessarily. I don't. Not. Yeah. I don't really know how I want to describe that. So maybe not hunt. Maybe study. Just following cops around, getting an idea of their turfs and their routines to keep us out of their way.
I like that. So it's almost a situation where it's not like you're going around and actively taking the heat off of your group, but you're figuring out where the hot areas are so that you can
Right.
avoid those in the future or whatever.
I'm like being a police scanner right now.
Cool. I like it. Yeah. So that would be hunt. You said. Oh,
Study.
Study. Right. Right. So go ahead and give me a study roll, and position and effect doesn't matter for this.
Okay. All right. What do we get? 5.
A 5, very nice. So you are going to reduce 2 heat from this whole thing. So you're now at 3 heat, and you can suffer a maximum of how many is this? 9 heat before you take a wanted level. So that's pretty good. With your second downtime activity, you could reduce heat again if you wanted to, but you don't have to.
Start a long-term project. Maybe survey to start get the feed on some prices for parts for our boat that we might need, or
Okay, yeah. So this is the project. Then might be something like fix your boat.
Yep.
And you are going to be starting a project for that. So I think this project is fairly simple. It's routine anyway. It's something that you guys have done before. So let's see here. What I need to do is add a token. I think it's going to be a 4-section clock for this project, right? And so I'm creating a token. And you can see this on the game board. In between the place where the characters are at and where the map is at. And I will choose a side. So the way you do the long-term project, you roll a trait, whichever one it is, study, if you're hunting down things or what have you. And then we mark a number of clock levels based on your result.
Okay, so I'm going to hunt down some parts, part acquisition.
Okay, so you're hunting then. So go ahead and give me a hunt roll. And again, position and effect doesn't really matter right now.
And no bonus dice?
None.
Cool. 5.
5, very nice. So 5 is 2 segments on this clock. So we've got the clock lit up for 2 segments right now. You see how that works? And I will add a note here as well that this is boat repairs. And this could be maybe an ongoing activity or what have you. But let's do this.
Oh, there it is. Gotcha.
And we want to do Patrick Hand. Let's make this bigger. There we go. Cool. So boat repairs. Ah, shoot. What am I doing? All right. So boat repairs. We've got that going for us. Does anybody else want to start any long-term projects or help out this one?
You said I could study prowess, though?
You can study prowess, yes. All you have to do to train prowess is say that you're training prowess, and you mark 2 experience points for that.
So what is, like, I have 3 experience points in there. What happens if I get 2 more? Like,
Does that fill the track?
no. So I have to fill the track to get anything.
Yeah. Once you fill the track, you clear the list, and you have the ability to add a pip to any one of those sections.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll help repair the boat.
Okay. Cool. So you're participating in this long-term project as well.
Yeah, I would tinker with it.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, because you're the mechanic. That makes a lot of sense. So go ahead and give me a tinker roll. Again, position and effect doesn't matter for this part. Ooh, one of our listeners, Citizen, just suggested for reducing heat, hunting down somebody who looks like Clank to finger as the person who is seen by Hutton.
Oh.
That is good.
Yeah. That could just be what Baron did. By studying, he went around and he looked for somebody who looked like Clank.
No one looks like Clink.
Oh, and did you already make this tinker roll here?
I did. I got a 6 and a 5.
Nice. So the 6 means that you fill 3 segments on this clock. So let me just go ahead and update that. You complete the thing, which means that the boat is fully repaired and ready to go.
Can I have made improvements to the boat?
You could start another long-term project to do that, but you would have to spend a coin to do an additional downtime activity.
That's what Clink spends his money on.
Okay, so you want to spend a coin and make that happen then?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll do that.
So what I think that will look like is a project to, well, let me see here. So quality gear, quality implements, burglary gear and climbing gear, arcane implements, supplies, subterfuge supplies. Yeah, okay. So we could do this 2 ways. Either you could start a project to soup up the boat, or you could acquire an asset, which would just be like a one-time use bonus, and it's your choice which one you want to do.
Right now, I just want to soup up the boat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I will
And
start
that
up.
train whistle, finally.
And do you want to spend 4, 6, or 8 clock segments on this project? It basically determines how awesome the upgrades are.
6.
6, okay. So we've got a token here for that, and I'm going to move this stuff around just a little bit. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. And we know that this is boat upgrades. So I will add that as well. So go ahead and give me your tinker roll to make that. Or you already did that. No.
I'll do another
you're
one.
doing another one. That's right.
Ooh, another 6.
Nice. Okay. So that's 3 segments on that thing. That's pretty exciting. And so what we will do is put this on top first, and then we will choose our side. And you've got halfway to being finished with that. Congratulations. I love the clock system in this game. I've seen it like in the index card RPG system applied to things, to everything, like picking a lock and hit points and all that sort of stuff, but I just love it. And this particular like Roll20 platform has this gorgeous little illuminated clock that's made by a guy. I think it's Andrew Shields, but I'll correct that if I'm wrong next time. I love it. Anyway, that's all I had to say. So we've got that. And we know now that Clank has done 3 downtime activities. I think Jonathan's done 2. And Benji, have you only done 1 so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have a second one you want to do?
I do. I might actually have 2.
Oh, okay.
What are some of the options again?
So
they listed?
You can choose to acquire an asset, start a long-term project, recover from wounds, which you don't have to do, reduce heat, train one of your attributes, or indulge your vice.
Okay. Maybe just 1 then. What? And I don't know what category this would fit under, and I don't know if it will actually even fit under one of these or not. But I wanted to go smooth things over with Tasho.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that would be considered an asset.
I think you could roll that into reducing heat if you want to and just make it a little easier on your crew next time, or you can acquire an asset and maybe recruit her help in a more meaningful way than the dockers were going to secure already.
Yeah, that's more kind of what I was going for.
Cool.
Having 1 skilled pilot is always nice, but sometimes having 2 would not be a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. So, here's the deal. You roll for the crew's tier, and the result will indicate the quality of the asset that you have secured. 1 to 3 is inferior, which means tier -1. Standard is just your tier, and that's a 4 or a 5. If you roll a 6, then it's fine, which means it's your tier plus 1. And if you roll a crit, 2 6s, then it's exceptional, and you get tier plus 2. Now, if you invoke one of your contacts to make this happen, you get an additional die. And that's something that I just saw you can do for any downtime roll. So I apologize that I didn't give anybody an opportunity to do that ahead of time, but we'll do that moving forward. So your crew's tier is 0, which means you would roll 2 dice and take the lower one. But if you can use one of your contacts in this endeavor, then you'll roll 1 die, and that way you won't have to take the lower of whatever you roll. And then also with any result on downtime, you can spend coin after you've rolled to upgrade the effect of what you've done, right? So if you roll a 4 or a 5, and that would be a quality level equivalent to your tier, then you can spend 2 coin to upgrade that to the next highest tier level. And you could use crew coffers for that if you wanted to. It would be a group decision.
So I can use contacts. Yeah, but instead of using, like, can I use my nemesis?
Yes, you can.
Excellent. That's what I want to do.
Okay, so you're gonna entangle your nemesis in this somehow, the servant.
Yeah,
And
Jenna the servant.
You're gonna smooth things over with Tasha. Okay.
Okay, so I think maybe I have found out that Jenna and Tasha have had some kind of run-in with each other, and they're not necessarily on the best of terms, and I'm going to try to wedge that divide further.
Wow, okay. So you're pissing off Jenna to get in good with Tasho and use her as an asset this next time.
Yeah.
Very nice. So go ahead and roll for your tier, which is 0, but you're using your asset, or you're using your contact, so it's 1 die.
And this is from the cruise sheet?
This is what you can do is roll fortune, which you should be able to do from your player playbook.
Okay. Let's see, where is that?
Don't know exactly where it is. Let me see if I can help you out.
Roll fortune. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So you roll fortune, and then you will...
Number of dice, 1?
1, that's right.
Okay. Submit. Notes. Oops.
You got a 5, it looks like?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so Tasha doesn't necessarily help you herself. She could give you an object or something that would help you instead. I mentioned that she is capable of providing Sparkcraft gear, which is basically like steampunk technology. So let your imagination run wild with that.
Okay. So...
And it's not something you have to decide now either. I mean, it's something that we can determine in the intervening time between games.
So I think it's actually an offensive measure. It's actually a way to like blast steam like out of basically the back of our boat.
Nice. Okay, cool. It's like a smokescreen thing. I love that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's see.
I think it has the added effect. It's hot steam, right? Too.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So
yeah, it could be damaging even if they're close enough, maybe.
Hot steam boat trail, I will say. Very nice. Tier 0. So that's what we need to know. And so that's everybody's downtime rounds. What we will do now is go through and tally up experience points. So first what I would like to do, everybody's already done the desperate actions. So let's do this by playbook. So Clank, what is your playbook trigger?
As in every time you roll desperate. Okay, so you addressed a challenge with technical skill or mayhem. You expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. You struggled with.
We're just doing the first one for now. The technical skill or mayhem, and I think that's all you did.
That's what I was trying for.
Every single one of them. So I think you can definitely mark 2 experience points there. And I'm pretty sure the way this particular experience trigger works, you have to mark that in your playbook. But the other experience triggers you can mark wherever you want, in your playbook or in one of your attributes.
What?
So like you've got a playbook experience track.
Right. So I put 2 flags in that.
Exactly. Yeah. And now Benji, what is your playbook unique trigger? It's right underneath the desperate action thing.
Okay, so talking about having done the desperate actions, I still have the desperate actions marked on my sheet. So I had 1 in insight and 1 in prowess. So now I just mark the first 2 flags under playbook advancement.
No, so you will mark those flags under the relevant attributes, right?
Okay, so leave those there.
Yeah, if effectively every character has 4 experience tracks. They have 1 for their playbook, and then they have 1 for each of their attributes, right?
I see. Okay.
And like when you fill your playbook, you can get a special ability, and when you fill your attribute track, you can gain an action rating in that attribute anywhere you want.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so putting that aside then, the first thing that I have for the playbook advancement is if I addressed a challenge with calculation or conspiracy.
Well, you get to decide if you did this or not, and then I get to decide. I get to kind of like weigh the degree. So, how do you feel you've accomplished that sort of thing in this session?
Well, I definitely think that I hit on conspiracy at the end here between Jenna and Tasho.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. And I think also maybe the flashback at the very beginning is a good example of the same sort of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I could agree.
Cool. So I think you can mark 2 experience points for that then.
Okay, excellent.
And then Jonathan, what is your unique playbook thing?
If I address challenges through tracking or violence.
Tracking or violence? I think you were pretty violent.
I tried to be.
Yeah, I mean, whether you succeeded or not is a different
It's
question.
the thought that counts.
You at least address the challenge that way, whether you succeeded in addressing it.
It's relevant if I succeeded.
But I think, yeah, pretty much everything you did was violent, so I think you can mark 2 experience for that as well.
Cool.
And now back to Clank. What is the next item on your thing? Beliefs, drives, and all that?
Yeah, you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. I think I did with power of the labor, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You were really supportive of that, and you also presented yourself generally as this kind of like well-informed technical mind. So I think 2 experience points works for there too, and you can put that anywhere in your playbook or in any of the 3 attributes.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, and you can divide it up however you want to. So, Benji, did you express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
I think I did, but it was pretty weak, honestly. I expressed the fact that I was noble-born whenever the other pilot tried to talk me down.
Absolutely.
But I don't know that I really did anywhere else, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. Well, 1 experience point is fine, and you can put that wherever you'd like. Jonathan, what about you? Beliefs, drives, heritage, background?
I don't necessarily think I really did any of those. None of the dialogue was really leaning me towards that, so
Sure.
I really don't think I did.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, not everybody marks experience and everything all the time, so yeah, we'll skip over that one for now, and then let's go ahead and do the last one with you first. So what's the last experience trigger?
You struggled with issues from your vice or traumas during the session.
Okay. You know, I don't know that anybody really did that. Some people indulged their vice, but like nobody has trauma yet, so that's certainly not something that happened. Cool. Yeah. So I'm comfortable saying that like nobody actually gets experience for that one, and we are officially done with our first session of Blades in the Dark. So yeah, you guys made it through. You managed to have a real rip-roaring time in the canals of Duskval. And you did a solid for the Dockers. I think they're definitely going to appreciate that. I will be adjusting things between now and the next time we play on the sheets and everything like that, just to update like faction status and any clocks that might have been started and that sort of thing. A lot of that stuff happens behind the scenes, so we definitely don't need to do it on the air here. But and I think the next time we're scheduled to play is like June 12th or something, the Tuesday of that week, whenever it is. Cool. Yeah, I think for you viewers, our plan is to do this every 2 weeks, but this time we had to do it every 3 because I'm doing a lot of travel and everybody's busy with stuff. So we're adults, damn it. Okay, so I just want to say thank you for everybody who tuned in. I want to give everybody a chance to sign off really quick. So let's start with Baron.
Thank you for having me. This has been an awesome time getting to play Blades in the Dark. I'm totally new to this system, and I'm having a blast. I'm Baron. I played Jonathan Black. I'm over at RWD Gaming on YouTube. We got live plays, so come check me out.
And Jeremy.
Yes, sir. I am Jeremy. I am over at the YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions. Also, a lot of live plays, and I'm trying to get some other content out there as well now. I am also 1/3 of the Dues of Yore podcast. So yeah, this is awesome. Like I've been hearing a lot about this system for a while now. A lot of people have had just nothing but fantastic things to say about it. So I'm really, really happy that I got the opportunity to finally play it, and especially with this group of people, because I am brand spanking new to it. So this is a great group to get to know a new system in, because everybody is very relaxed, laid back, and cool about it. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And Derek.
Yeah, I'm Derek. I play Clank. I'm a small part of the Mythic Gazetteer. So that's a fun thing. I've had a lot of fun today too. Looking forward to keep playing, seeing what other mischief I can get into.
That's right. Yeah, well, again, thank you to the 3 of you for playing. Thank you for all of our viewers. This will eventually be uploaded to YouTube, so I'll go ahead and say for the benefit of that when I do that, I'll go ahead and include everybody's, YouTube links and all that stuff so that people know where to find us. Like Derek said, we together are the Mythic Gazetteer. We came out with our first product, the Blackwood Errantry Codex, a setting for Savage Worlds, in October after a successful Kickstarter a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. Pretty exciting. And we're working on our first supplement for that game too. And so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, keep your eyes open, scoundrels, because we're on the prowl.